Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon of May 2nd, 2021. We have joining us a distinguished panel of U.S. Transhumanist Party officers and members. We have our Director of Visual Art, Art Ramon Garcia. We have our Director of Applied Innovation, David Shoemaker. We have our Director of Energy Issues, John Carrots, and we have our members, Brent Ellman and Jason Geringer. And joining us as our special guest today is our first officially endorsed candidate of 2021, Jennifer Huse, who is running for mayor of Camden, New Jersey. Over the course of the preceding week, we have had a vote of our members, and Jennifer received an overwhelming endorsement with 91.9% of the voting members voting in favor. So congratulations, Jennifer, on this endorsement. We are quite excited now to have a candidate to rally behind once again. This is going to be a very interesting campaign season because you are the first mayoral candidate that we know of who explicitly advocates for healthy life extension initiatives. So this is a historic first in terms of US politics, and we are thankful that there is someone running at that level who is willing to be very open about such advocacy. And we also appreciate you joining us. Tell us how your campaign has been proceeding these past several months.
Thanks for having me, first of all, and also obviously for the endorsement. That was very nice. I really appreciate an endorsement of such a party because, as you guys know, I have so much respect for what you guys are trying to do for the world. So I really appreciate it. The campaign's been going well. Right now I'm in the signature collection phase, which we pretty much are almost there. So that's been going well. And I've been doing a lot of one-on-one door knocking, really. My husband and I, we work all the time, pretty much, mostly wherever we're living, we work all the time, but especially since we've gotten, down here to Camden some years ago, we just work, and it gives me a really nice opportunity to get out and to meet everyone. I'm getting to go into all the businesses and speak to them and to people's actual individual doors, which people seem to be pretty appreciative about that because they said they've never had a candidate that's actually come to the house, or anything like that before. So and it's nice to get to speak to everyone in a one-on-one setting. I apologize, but there's some motorcycles going by because there's a motorcycle. But usually there's construction noise in my interviews. So, but yeah. So so it's really nice because I can. Not that there's anything wrong with having a big events, but sometimes you don't necessarily get to speak to everybody one-on-one if it's a larger event. And this is a really nice way to get to speak to everyone and hear what their individual concerns are and what they would like to see addressed in the city. Because I'm very interested in that. I have a pretty extensive platform, but it doesn't mean that I've gotten every single thing that someone might want to see addressed on there. So I am very interested in hearing what everyone has to say, and they're very excited to have an independent so far. Our city has only had Democratic nominees. So I'm the first independent that's running, and they're very interested in the platform in general. A lot of people said they've never seen a platform like that before. So so it's been going really well.
Excellent. And I did just share a link to your campaign website in the YouTube chat for
Thanks.
those viewers who haven't looked at Jennifer's website. I would encourage you to do so. And if you have any questions about her platform during this live stream, please feel free to pose them in the chat. We will try to get to as many questions as we possibly can today. So, Jennifer, I think the method that you're pursuing with meeting people one-on-one, essentially hearing out their concerns, explaining how your platform would address them, is the most effective way of communication. It is what I think also works best in communicating the ideas of transhumanism and the desirability of life extension, because that way you get to hear an individual's reactions as well as any questions or concerns that that person might have and address them in a direct, targeted manner. Of course, I wouldn't call it a drawback, I would call it an inevitable aspect of that approach, is that it is very time intensive, very
Yes.
labor intensive, and it takes a lot of dedication to carry it out. So you have some background in doing that, though, that makes you, I would say, better suited than most for engaging in that kind of outreach.
Yes, thank goodness I can use that background for something positive. But yes, I did. I did have quite a bit of extensive background in that. My upbringing, my parents were missionaries for their religion, and that involved knocking doors all over the country. Really, we moved around quite a bit in childhood and stuff. So so now I enjoy it. I know I could see how it could be kind of nerve-wracking for people, to just go and speak to people in that manner. They might feel more comfortable addressing a crowd, or something like that. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the one-on-one.
It's interesting because I am actually an introvert and I have no problems with public speaking. I can deliver a presentation to 1,000 people and not flinch. But I do have some hesitation just approaching a stranger whom I've never met before and starting a conversation with that person. So I'm curious, what is your advice for especially more introverted people who want to learn this skill? And I'm not just talking about myself. I am hoping that in the coming years, the US Transhumanist Party will be able to coordinate volunteers in various states to gather petition signatures. And of course, if you're standing out in a public place and people are walking by and you want to get them to stop and sign your petition, it's not always a comfortable feeling to just call out to someone saying, excuse me, would you like to sign this petition? I'd like to talk to you about this candidate or this party. So what advice would you have for people with regard to how to approach that?
I would say that, a good start obviously is if it's something that you really believe in. If you really believe in it, firstly, you might have an easier time speaking to people about it, than if, say, you were, maybe had to take a job because you were forced to, or something, being paid to do this. You might even be more hesitant. But if you can at least have it be something that you really believe in, and for me, I really believe in bringing all of these upgrades to our city, so that's a start. And then just to remember that people are just people, they're just people, just like us. And yeah, somebody may not be interested in what you're speaking to them about, and they may say no, or something like that, or some people don't get involved with politics at all, so they say no, and that's okay. No doesn't matter. No is a very hard thing for, I think, for people to get past. They want everyone that they're speaking to be accepting of what they're saying or interested in what they're saying. But that's just really not the case in life. And if we really get held up on these no's, or this idea of no's that are coming or something, it really limit our ability to do a lot of things in life, and just because that person said no, that doesn't mean that the next person is going to say no. And the next person that you meet could say yes, and then be like, oh, I also have 6 people that are interested in it too. I have had that too. I've had people where I went up to them and just asked them, and now they're helping me collect signatures. And if I didn't, I never would have met that person. So things like that. And it just really don't be scared of the word no. Even it's okay. It is okay. Not every single person is going to be interested in what we say right at that moment, and it doesn't even mean that necessarily because they weren't interested in it at that moment that they might not be interested later. They may have a Democratic nominee that they're very interested in my case, a Democratic nominee that they're very interested at this time, but they still have to go through the primary. So maybe they're like, okay, yeah, but I'm behind this person, but they take the flyer and they go look at the website, like, oh, the platform's good, whatever. And then if their candidate doesn't make it through the primary, then they may have a new interest and maybe a seed that was planted, in regards to it, or just to get their minds thinking that the people that they should be behind should be wanting these things too. Well, why isn't the person talking about a higher quality of life for everyone? Why don't they have, things laid out for these different things? And if anything, whoever gets office anywhere, we want them to use the position to the best that they can for the people that they're elected to represent, no matter what. So, even if it's getting conversations, started where they might say like, this independent candidate has this, like, what are you going to do about it? We would want, no matter, like I said, no matter who gets the office, we want them to do the best possible thing that they can do for the city. And there's so much that someone can do in that position, so yeah, I would just say, don't let it bother you. I know that's hard to say to people that it bothers, but the word's no, because it's all planting seeds for change and progress by reaching out to everyone like that.
Yes, and I think it helps to have that kind of intellectual perspective on it, that it's an iterative approach, that one isn't necessarily going to succeed on every attempt, but if one makes lots of attempts, then some of them will be successful, enough of them will be successful that one will achieve one's goal. And your goal is 100 signatures. Probably you'll want a few more than that just in case they get challenged. But there are enough people in Camden to give you well over 100 signatures.
Yeah. We're trying to go over just in case, just to make sure that the election board advised us to shoot for double, just to make sure that they all go through. So we're shooting for double that. But yeah, and the signature, at least on the signature part is just a chance. It gives an independent a chance to run up against the Democratic nominee. It's not a vote, or anything like that. So you can still even support the candidate that you support while still giving a chance, to run too. So a lot of people are pretty comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, Jason has informed us of some news that I think is noteworthy for this discussion. Apparently, the mayor of Camden stepped down on April 1st of
Yes.
this year. So can you tell us more about this?
Yes, the mayor has stepped down. There's a lot of speculation in politics, period, about different things. So I can only go off of what he himself says. And of course, people have speculation about different things about it. Why is he ending his term early, and things like that? But he has stated that he has health problems that he would like to address, and that he wants to spend more time with his family. He was, working in various positions for the city for probably 3 decades. So he has noted that he wanted to spend more time with his family, and things. So and in the meantime, they've appointed an interim mayor off of city council.
Mm-hmm. And the name of the interim mayor is Curtis Jenkins. What do you know about him? Is he a contender for the Democratic primary, or is he just a caretaker who will be in this position for a few months?
As far as I know, I would actually have to look into that a little bit more. I actually am not sure if Curtis is running right now. I want to check, because I had just read some more recent things, and I want to now double check on whether or not he is going to be a candidate or not. But they have kind of, the city Democrats have sort of put their endorsement behind someone else. So that is kind of being put around as who the front runner is for the party. So, and then there's a couple other nominees, but that's look into that while we're talking, because I've been following these different updates each day, because sometimes people announce their candidacy and then they drop off depending on what's going on in their life and circumstances, and if they feel they want to keep putting all of that effort into it or not. So let me see if I'm gonna pull up this now.
Mm-hmm. And while you do that, I'll make a comment about presumptive nominees. It seems the Democratic Party likes to have them quite often. We've seen this in presidential elections as well, how Hillary Clinton was the presumptive nominee in 2016, and Joe Biden was the presumptive nominee in 2020. And there's a lot of maneuvering behind the scenes to essentially engineer an outcome whereby the presumptive nominee becomes the actual nominee, and sometimes that is done through discreet phone calls to other candidates, essentially saying, well, perhaps you've had a good run, but maybe it's time for you to drop out and express support for our presumptive nominee. This is what happened with Joe Biden, how you all of a sudden had this cascade of withdrawals from people who had decent chances, in my view, people like Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and even Elizabeth Warren later on. And the reason why they did that at the time that this was orchestrated was because Bernie Sanders was really gaining in the primaries. And to be honest, in terms of my own positions, they're probably closer to Biden than to Sanders. So I don't offer this as an endorsement of Sanders. However, it does seem to me that within the Democratic Party establishment, the outcome was predetermined and they really did not want to support Sanders. So for them, Biden was the go-to option, the option that was predictable, controllable, where they could get the kinds of policies that they wanted to achieve. And it may well be the case in a local setting as well. But one thing that may be interesting for you to think about would be if these other challengers are sufficiently different from the presumptive frontrunner, if they too want to bring certain changes that the Democratic establishment is not comfortable with, and you as an independent candidate, you make it through that petition filter, so you're on the ballot, the Democratic frontrunner is on the ballot, these other Democrats who are challengers may be open to aligning with you if they think that you are more likely to accomplish some of the changes that they want to see.
Yes, yes, and that's what I'm hoping for too. I'm hoping that some of them, I definitely have seen that some, they care and are trying to do different things on their end too. So I hope that perhaps if their person that they are behind or such, as we were talking about, even just with when we weren't talking about candidates, but we were just talking about members of people in the city, that maybe if the person that they are behind, so to speak, doesn't make it through the primary, that they may be interested in looking, to work with me too. I'm hoping so.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just double checking because I just really, from what I'm reading, the person that is the interim mayor, as far as I'm seeing, is not.
So it seems then that he's more of a caretaker. He's there for a few months to make sure that there's a smooth transition, but he doesn't have any ambitions himself. And actually, in my experience, those people tend to be fairly decent because they essentially just want to make sure there are no major disruptions during their term, no major scandals, everything works according to plan. If they don't have a lot of political ambitions, it suggests that personality-wise, they're not going to be prone to corruption or sensationalism. They're just going to want to do their job, kind of a technocrat type of position. So that may actually put Camden in a decent place if you win and become the mayor. You might be left with less of a mess than if you had succeeded an elected Democrat.
Yeah. We'll see. How it goes. I think what you're saying is pretty accurate. That obviously you have to elect an interim mayor in the meantime, if the resignation comes before the primary, especially, or sorry, before the general, and his did. So there has to be someone to replace that person in the meantime. And kind of the vibe when you read about it is that they're expecting kind of the same thing that's been happening through the last elections, and just that whoever wins the primary is going to be the next person. So usually each election, the city Democrats, main city Democrats throw their weight behind the front runner, and then that person wins the primary and then the election. But this time, now that the mayor has resigned early, they have an interim mayor in, but they also have kind of made their selection of who they're going to put their weight behind, So, and I guess, as of right now, they're not even probably very concerned with me at all, because when it comes to no one's ran independent yet, so they're probably will come more after they see if the petition gets in and what I'm what I'm trying to do. But a lot of times when you have such a big machine like that, they're just thinking they're gonna win. So that's another reason I like going directly to the people, is just because it gives me that opportunity to speak with them one-on-one directly, and let them know that there is going to be another option, which hasn't existed before. So, yeah.
Yes. And right now, it is to your advantage that the Democratic Party isn't paying that much attention to your campaign, because it enables you to build up your resources, build up public awareness. You've said before you're going to be advertising, and you don't think the Democrats are. So by the time they are at the point where they see you as a serious contender, you will have gained a lot more ground. And hopefully you'll be able to fly under their radar even when you submit the petition signatures, because I think the greatest vulnerability will come at the time that the petition signatures are reviewed. The Democratic Party loves to challenge petition signatures of not just independent candidates, but also minor political parties, particularly political parties that they think will, quote, take votes away from them. Like the Green Party, for instance, has to fight the Democratic Party in many states, including Nevada, where I reside. In 2016, there was a major controversy because the Green Party had gathered enough signatures to meet the state's threshold, but the Democratic Party challenged the legitimacy of those signatures. The Democratic Party was alleging that they were fraudulent. I doubt it, but they tied up the process and litigation for so long that the Green Party simply didn't have time to get on the ballot in the 2016 election. So Nevadans couldn't vote for Jill Stein if they wanted to, which I think is very unfortunate, because I believe, of course, people should have the choice to vote for whatever individual, whatever party they consider to be the best option. Now, we do have a question for you from Mike Lazine, who asks, how much of the Transhumanist Bill of Rights do you want to try to implement into running Camden when you win?
The Bill of Rights. Well, I wouldn't say that I specifically have the Bill of Rights built in, but I want to bring as much change to Camden as possible. And the Transhumanist Party is about bringing in as much in regards to health and science and technology as we can. So pretty much agree with everything that is in the Bill of Rights. Even though I may not have copied it word for word, or anything into my platform. I want to bring Camden up in as many ways as possible. Quality of life and health, it has to be number one, because we don't have anything if we don't have our health. So having the population size that we have, about 77,000, that is a very workable number, for us and our network that we have in the Transhumanist Party, to really get people in and be bringing it beyond just, here, obviously, we also need our basic needs met, and basic needs have to be met immediately before you can even do upgrades that are not even in existence places yet. But so of course it's a matter of meeting basic needs, but beyond that, it's bringing the quality up to the top quality that there is in the world. A lot of people look at just the nation, but really we need to strive to bring it up to the top quality in the world, because if those things already exist, there's no reason that we shouldn't be striving to bring them in our area. And then to go beyond that by bringing in futuristic technologies that we can develop to really bring us to the forefront of that. Camden is a metro city with a very small population and a very good location. We're 6 minutes from Philadelphia. We're an hour and a half from New York. And like I mentioned, it's a metro city. So a largely abandoned metro city. But, you know, we really could turn this into a whole example for the nation and the world if we're able to bring these even more advanced technologies and sciences in too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think by doing that, you would be building up the framework for the Transhumanist Bill of Rights to be implemented eventually. It's a long-term type of effort, of course. The Transhumanist Bill of Rights is aspirational. We're looking at what the world could be like several decades from now, hopefully, and if not that, then at least a century from now, when we will have the technological advancements, we will have the economic prosperity, we will have the ability to respect the rights, not just of humans, but of other sentient entities that might emerge at that time. But there are sometimes situations, as you pointed out, which are a bit lower on Maslow's hierarchy of needs that do need to be addressed for people. And Camden is in an interesting position because it does have all of this infrastructure. It used to be extremely prosperous earlier in the 20th century, and it has the scientific and medical infrastructure to go even further in the 21st century. But there was a period of a few decades when it was in decline, and as a result, there are significant problems there with poverty, unemployment, lack of access to basic resources. So how do you think that happened, and what can be done to turn that situation around to have Camden be able to realize its potential?
I think a number of things led up to it, like you said. In general, I think if we have industrial type cities, motorcycles again. We have industrial type cities, and then the industry moves out, then a lot, and there's nothing really there to replace it, then a lot of these things can happen where it can lead to destitution in the area. Also, it's a minority prevalent city, and unfortunately, when an area has a lot of minorities, a lot of times it is passed over in regards to the help that other areas may receive. It's happened in other cities, you know. Oakland was really, in California, was suffering for a long time. They have a great mayor and that's starting to do a lot of stuff there. Stockton, same thing. They actually got a new mayor that is pretty wonderful too. You know, you look Flint, you know, and these other cities. So I think it was overlooked for a very long time and neglected. And so, you know, I think that has led to a lot of the things that we have now. And, you know, we still have people that fall under the category of extreme poverty. We still have homelessness. We have poverty, which is, you know, a little bit better than extreme poverty, you know, financially. Consider they have these different poverty level rankings, you know, numerical poverty level rankings. So like you're saying, we do still have those things that we have to address first. Obviously, even when it comes to life extension technologies and getting people interested in life extension technologies, if someone's on the street or they're worrying every second if they're going to even, you know, have food or have utilities on or have you know, medical care or things like that, then sometimes they don't even want to wrap their minds around extending their life, because you know, you have to sometimes, you know, you want a quality of life to extend, so if we're able to come in and we're really able to address all of those needs and provide a better quality of life for every single person here, then we can get more into these things to expand above and beyond already what people in the most advanced parts of the world have done. So.
Yes, indeed. Now, David, you wanted to say something on this.
Yeah, I did. Jennifer, it occurs to me that your primary opponents are the Democratic Party, and that's who typically is the de facto next mayor. And right, okay. So one of the advantages I see for you, just listening to you and listening to your background a little bit, stems from maybe an unlikely source, and I don't know whether you've considered this or not, but you talked briefly earlier about your parents' missionary assignments and going different places. I too, when I was quite young, traveled a lot with my parents and was exposed to different cultures, and I found that that's made it really easy for me to talk to people from outside my own very comfortable culture, which a lot of people can't do. And that's a great source of votes for you.
Yes.
Able to connect that way. Do you see that as well?
Yes. I guess it is a couple of things came out of that background. Is one not really being upset or offended or afraid of the word no, and not being afraid of those one-on-one conversations and things like that, or even more than not being afraid, enjoying the one-on-one conversations and things like that. But also too, yes, I was very exposed for a variety of reasons, not just the background that I was raised in, but religiously, but also the education that I received and the volunteer work that I've done over the years, and the different experiences that I've had with all that has, really, fortunately gotten me to meet almost just about every kind of person that there is, in regards to their belief systems and things. So I'm very comfortable with all types of belief systems and backgrounds and things in regards to that. So just in general, I'm very connected to people. I always have been. So I'm very interested in them, and regardless of things, some people may find a reason that they only like a certain group of people for any kind of reason. It could be how much they only like people that make a certain amount of money. They only like people that are in a certain field. They only like people that have a particular religion that they are in, or it could be anything, any reason. It could be someone's coloring of their skin. It could be where they were born. It could be the accent that they have, or anything like that, that may choose them to only want to associate or spend more time or speak with a certain group of people. But I've been around enough persons and enough places to just see that every person is wonderful. They're all interesting, all wonderful. And there's you have to, I think, especially going into this kind of position where you really can affect so many people's lives, you have to love every single person that you are elected to represent. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes persons are like, yeah, okay, I care about this person, but not that person. There's some scenarios where people really maybe it has to do with incarceration or what they were incarcerated for, that automatically they don't care about that person or what happens to them, or sometimes they even want them to suffer, you know what I mean, because of a certain thing. But I would say probably even more I would say the background where I was raised with my parents really helped in regards to being able to speak to people and not be so nervous and not be concerned about no, but loving people and wanting the best quality of life for them no matter what, from not just wanting to have the richest people in your city do good. You really judge it by how the most vulnerable are doing in your city. What are you doing for everyone, to see how you're doing, and that includes everything. That includes the incarcerated, regardless of what they were incarcerated for. You don't want to add any more terror or anything to them when they are detained. You obviously, there's examples of it all over the world, that have reformed their detention and rehabilitation systems, when they don't, have to worry about those kind of things. There's people that have reformed their whole everything in regards to homelessness and gotten rid of those issues, and things like that. So, and I think that's what's really helped a lot with that was my volunteering, actually, and being able to see that, even people that do things that people consider are, a mistake or not the way you should live your life, or this or that, or whatever, to really try to look at each person as a person and know that all of these people have a variety of different situations and backgrounds and things that have led them to different points in their lives, and really no one is any better than anyone, that you should just be working only for some people.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. And now we have some questions from Jason Geringer. I will pose them in turn. So his first question is, have you heard when they go low, we go high? I believe Michelle Obama expressed that during the 2016 election. How do you think you will respond to low types of tactics if they are directed at you?
That's funny because I was just having this conversation recently when I was out door knocking, and a lot of people, or not even just, I've had this conversation a couple of times, because they're wondering, because it's been such a democratic machine that's rolled through all of these elections, that if they ask me, what if someone is trying to do something to you, or talk about you, or do sneaky things and this and that, and I really I guess on one hand, I could see how people would be very concerned with that. I could see how people would be very concerned with what other candidates are doing in general. What are the other candidates doing, and what are the other candidates saying? And I am slightly, interested in what their platforms are and things like that. But I just in general figure that it may come. That I know politics can get very sometimes to a point where people are just trying to lie or undercut or do something to the person that they are in the election against, and all I can really do again is I think I'm just more focused on what I can do. I'm more focused on what I can do for people. Obviously, I hope that everybody else that is running is trying to do their best for the people. But if people say things about me, or they want to try to do something sneaky, all I can do is try to be as open and transparent as possible. And my working groups are open, my organizational platform boards are open. I'm very just kind of, as as much as I can put out for people to see. I'd rather just take that approach, because if people want to, instead of hiding, what I'm working on, or hiding this grant that I have, or hiding that I sent a grant that came out to one of the other candidates just to make sure that they knew that they had it, just in case that, they just the other day, in case they get the position, I want to make sure they use the grant, and to just do it that way. And if whatever happens is going to happen, if they vote for me, or they vote for another candidate, then that's what's going to happen. And if that candidate really wants to turn to those kind of tactics or something like that, then there isn't a whole lot that I can do about it, except just keep being me and talking to people and doing what I'm doing, and I hope it doesn't go to that. It doesn't really seem like people in our city are like that. But then again, there hasn't ever been a challenger to the Democratic nominee, but they're not really like that, even in their competition or whatever that they have with one another. They're sort of just talking about the things that they can do and stuff like that. So yeah, it may come, and if it does, then we'll deal with it, I guess, the best that we can, at that time, and hopefully people will know that, if it's like some kind of smearing or a lie or something like that, hopefully they'll know that that's what's going on. Oh, okay, they see a bit of a threat, so this is going on. But I know, at least from my platform, I'm not interested in doing anything like that. I'm not interested in turning this into a campaign where it's just I'm better than this candidate because this, that, and bashing them or something like that. Again, like you had brought up before, anyway, I hope to work with all these people. I want to work with all these people that care about the city and things like that. So, I could just all I can do is really spend my time on getting out the proposals that I have, and speaking to people one-on-one, and hopefully they'll see that I'm trying to do the best that I can.
Yes, thank you. And in politics, it does help to have a thick skin, so to speak. I've even found that it helps in politics when one isn't running for office, but just trying to run a political organization of any size. Sometimes personal attacks will come. Sometimes certain individuals will behave in a less than ideal manner, but one just has to keep doing what one is doing and standing up for one's principles. So the next question from Jason speaks to a subject of discussion and some differences of opinion within the transhumanist community over the past few years. I think most people know where I fall on this side of the issue, but here is Jason's question. How do you feel about shock jock type tactics? Do you think any type of attention is good? Do you plan to do something controversial just for the attention?
Shock jock. So I guess what you mean is sort of staging some type of thing. I don't know. When I think of that from a politician, I know Jill Stein had did some kind of thing with graffiti or something like that. I think she was trying to do something a little shocking or something like that. I don't think so. I think that my platform is kind of shocking enough in that of how progressive it is. People are pretty surprised when they see my flyers and go to my website and stuff. Just see the sheer amount of things that I'm trying to improve. Again, I think I'm just going to, not that there's anything wrong with it, and I know that also, some people try to do some type of thing to really stand out, especially when they are running in these large cities, or running, when they have such a population that they're trying to reach, that they're maybe trying to get some attention of the newspapers or something that way, especially, maybe independents, because maybe they're not getting as much recognition as the big parties or something. But I know that's not really the path I'm taking. I'm just trying to really lay out as many issues as I can, but also lay out ones that I know a mayor can work on themselves. Because obviously there's some things that we would like to change that may involve like a governor helping, or may involve a president helping, or a senator, or something like that. And those would be things that of course we would want to work on also, because we want to try to bring about as much change as we can. But I'm just focused on what a mayor can do themselves in their own city, because then I know that we really can work on that. And then once we work on those things, it builds some momentum to work on the others. But that's about it. just putting together as solid of a platform as we can. I'm trying to work in advance, obviously, of the election, to connect to as many people as I can that are scientists and researchers, business owners, other politicians, and things like that, to see that if I am fortunate enough to attain the position, would they be interested in working with me, so that I really know ahead of time what we have, and I'm not just so I can hit the ground running, and I'm not waiting until after the election to try to reach out to people and things like that.
Yes, indeed. And that was a good answer, by the way, because I've had to spend years trying to convince some people that not all publicity is good publicity, that there are certain publicity stunts that are ill-advised. Now, Jason also points out that Tom Ross coined the phrase Machiavellian quicksand to describe certain wedge issues, the issues that cause a lot of partisan divides and generally serve more as tribal signaling than actual substantive politics. So how do you plan to respond when someone tries to pigeonhole you into a divisive answer on a wedge issue?
Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by a wedge issue?
So a wedge issue generally is an issue where, based on whether someone is a Republican or a Democrat, they are statistically likely or expected to have a certain position on it. And that position was essentially cultivated by the strategists of both parties. Examples of wedge issues in the United States today: abortion and gun control are the two big wedge issues. There are a few others that may be becoming wedge issues, even though probably they shouldn't be, and they haven't been in the past. Policy toward voting access is becoming a wedge issue. Immigration policy is becoming a wedge issue, even though in the past, the Republicans and Democrats used to be more aligned on those. But abortion and gun control are still the two most divisive wedge issues today.
Oh, okay. So an issue that's divisive. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean now. And so you're asking what I'll do if they try to pigeonhole me onto a certain topic like that?
Yes. Yes. So if they take something that you say maybe out of context, and if the Democrats are doing it, they'll say, well, see, she's just like those evil Republican Trump supporter types, whatever label they want to attach to you, just because they see something that you've said, and it's not exactly what the Democratic Party platform says, whatever it is.
Yeah, yes, I'm sure that that could apply to a lot of things that I have and that I stand for. Even as we know, even anything like that. I had someone ask me the other day, rather, I don't know how to explain it, but even the name of the Transhumanist Party, people sometimes don't understand what the name means, and I had to explain to them that it was about transcending humanity's limitations, and then they kind of were like, oh, okay, and then I showed them the values of the party and different things and talked about that. I guess you run into the possibility of that with politics. Of this again goes to any kind of maybe smearing or lying about another candidate. Sure, they could definitely twist words on something. So I guess, really the only thing that you can do if someone's trying to twist your words is just to try and, again, get out what your words really are to and what you really stand for to as many people as possible, and a lot of the things with some of these issues that they're using, some of them, not all of them, are really a matter of personal choice too, and they don't actually or shouldn't involve the government as much as they should or do. I mean, things that involve personal choice is really what we're supposed to be working on, and the government is, again, providing our people the best quality of life in every area that we can, making sure they have education, making sure the city is as efficient and disaster resistant and smart and green and and technologies, things like that we can bring in. So if someone does choose to do that, then it's going to be another kind of example, I think, of if they're trying to do some other kind of nefarious attacks, is just to hope that I'm doing a good enough job with my platform and my connection to people, that I just would speak, try to speak on it as much as I could, to clear up if there was any confusion about my words.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, a lot of these wedge issues, they were specifically designed so that actually individual candidates don't have much power to address them one way or the other. A lot of these issues ultimately get decided at the federal level, or they get decided by the courts.
Yeah.
And someone running for the executive branch doesn't really have that much sway over them. And at the national level, even, abortion is a very good example of this, because often presidential candidates get asked, well, what is your stance on abortion? But the fact is, the Supreme Court determines what the de facto law of the land is with regard to that. And some will say, well, the president has the power to appoint Supreme Court justices, but how many Republican presidents have we had? How many Supreme Court justices have they appointed? And how much has happened on this issue? Pretty much nothing at all. And I think the reason why this keeps coming up in every election is to scare the voters of whichever side is really gravely concerned about this issue, because the political strategists told them to be concerned. And it does take away, actually, from the substantive discussion of what policies can this candidate implement. So yes, I think it is important to just focus on one's own ideas and plans and explain them, and point out that any of these kinds of attacks are essentially a distraction from the substance. Now, we do have among our audience Daniel Twett, who had been a candidate for city council in Thousand Oaks, California, and he actually got over 3,000 votes in the 2020 election. So he did quite well, and he continues to run every 2 years, I believe. But he has a question about some aspect. It may be a little bit different in Thousand Oaks than it is in Camden, so I would be curious as to your answer. He asks, will you be filing a candidate statement in the voter information guide for this election? And do they charge candidates to do that in Camden, New Jersey? He points out that in Thousand Oaks, it was a $1,200 fee to have such a statement published and mailed out. Do you have anything similar in Camden, or is it a different system?
Can you tell me what the name of the statement was again? Sorry.
Candidate statement in the voter information guide. Do they publish some sort of voter information guide, like officially from the body that administers the election?
That's a really good question, because I don't think that I've seen anything like that here. Again, it's a little bit strange with the way that it is here, in that mostly I've only looked back at the last 6 elections, because that still covers about 24 years there. But there's usually about 3 candidates for Democratic for the primary. And then so people from the primary will usually do some speaking engagements and stuff like that, and do some things for the newspapers to draw a little bit of attention for the primary. And then whoever wins the primary is the only person to vote for in the general, and that's been for like the last 24 years. So I don't think they have a very intensive thing in regards to that, although I'm sure that there's state guides, and for voter help and things like that, but I haven't heard of that. That doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't one. I haven't heard of anything like that for here. But in your area, I'm assuming, I'm just making an assumption, Daniel, that there's a lot more candidates, maybe?
There have been a lot more candidates on the ballot for Thousand Oaks, and I think Daniel can clarify how many there were during the last election, but I was quite surprised to see the number a few months ago. He says that in Thousand Oaks, they offer a candidate the opportunity to provide 250 words for the candidate's statement. Otherwise, they just list the candidate's occupation on the ballot.
I see.
It's an interesting system, and I think they do it because there are a lot more choices. And Daniel...
And that goes directly on the ballot, is what?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I that's a good question.
And
I don't recall seeing anything like that. I don't know if that changed or anything, but yeah, that's a good question. I don't know of any associated fees in regard to it. I haven't seen anything like that. Basically, I just kind of did read the whole New Jersey candidate election manual, and then I spoke to the county office and county election boards and the city offices and things like that. But that hasn't come up. But again, it doesn't mean that there isn't some. I haven't seen it. I just haven't seen it. Not for here. It could be due to the lack of candidates, though. Maybe but also here, we have a restrictions, and that we're not allowed to run on any party except the Democratic or Republican Party. They don't allow any independent parties here. There was a petition to change that, because the people here wanted change that and to be able to vote on any run on any party that they wanted. And they collected all the votes that were needed and hired an attorney to file it. And he actually passed away. And because he passed away, even though they had all of the petitions and everything like that, it didn't go through because he was in the hospital dying, and it didn't get filed in time. And so they weren't able to change it. They were trying to change it for this coming election, but that didn't go through in the deadline that they had. So so that's a good question, Daniel. I haven't seen anything. I'll try to look a little more into that.
Yes, and it is unfortunate that that petition effort failed. Perhaps in the coming years, we could reinvigorate that, hopefully, without anybody associated with the effort dying this time. Of course, as transhumanists, we especially don't want that to happen. But Daniel,
and it was amazing because, sorry, I didn't mean to scrape up, but it was amazing too because they collected even, with everything that was going on. They got the number needed. The people wanted it,
Oh, of course, the people will want more choice.
This lock that we have here.
Mm-hmm. So Daniel says that in Thousand Oaks, they had a field of 9 candidates running for 2 open council seats. And these municipal seats are nonpartisan. And California is actually pretty good in allowing people to run for nonpartisan roles. They are extremely difficult when it comes to political parties trying to get ballot access. So as a result, a lot of independent candidates who don't lean toward either the Democratic or Republican parties, will either pursue the council level, municipal level seats, which tend to be nonpartisan, or they'll try to run in the primaries for a particular office. And California has open primaries, so technically anybody can run and parties can endorse them. This is what Zoltan Istvan did, for instance, in the 2018 primary for governor of California. And he got the endorsement of the Libertarian Party, but he could have been on the ballot either way. And then California has a top 2 system for the general election. So whichever 2 candidates win the most votes in the primary, they advance to the general election. And most often 2 Democrats will advance because that's how dominant the Democratic Party is in California.
My brother-in-law brought that up to me actually because my sister and brother-in-law live out in California. I think they also have what Daniel was talking about, that little section that can go on the ballot about each one of the candidates. But yeah, he had mentioned that to me, that the way they have it structured there, that pretty much no matter what, they take the top 2 votes. Or the top 2 persons with the most votes, and so even if you are not endorsed or whatever for another party, it doesn't matter. You're not an option. Go on there, which I thought was very restrictive. That is blew my mind when he told me that. That's awful.
Yes, really. The top 2 system is one of the voting reforms that I'm least favorably inclined toward, because it does greatly limit people's options in the general election. Now, Jason asks, given that you likely face a Democratic opponent, you certainly will face a Democratic opponent, and when comparing the platforms of the USTP and the Democrats, what are the issues where you think the USTP has an advantage and which you would plan to emphasize?
I think the United States Transhumanist Party's platform and my platform, again, it's getting into comparisons of parties and candidates and things like that. I would just say that it's more progressive than the Democratic Party. It's more human focused and planet focused. and more for all people, and not that the Democratic Party doesn't claim that they're for all people. Sometimes, or the candidate may claim that they want to do something for everyone. Once in a while, I hear that get thrown out there, but then I don't really see that often anything behind that. What are they really trying to do to make sure? I don't see quality of life really thrown around at all ever, in regards to it. I haven't seen it much on anyone else's proposal. And I do know some of the more well-known Democrats, maybe in Congress, or maybe again, like when Bernie Sanders ran, and stuff like that. Even though he didn't get the nomination, he did speak a lot about having things for all. But even some of these more progressive Democratic platforms are still nowhere near what the Transhumanist Party is discussing, or what I'm discussing, because it's talking about taking care of all issues for all people, and then going beyond that, then we're talking about bringing us all to a quality of life, for ourselves and the planet, and everything involved, that things that haven't even been developed yet. We want to be doing that, extending life for people longer than they've lived, and healthier than anyone has ever lived. We're talking about technologies, and now people are starting to talk about things like that, the more technological things. But in regards to putting into place things against natural disasters, and like this virus that we've just gone through, but putting things in advance so that we're not hit with it and don't know what to do, and our society is on hold or crumbling, or everybody's suffering more because we don't have things in place to prepare for these kind of things, or prepare for disasters, when we know now that we have disaster resistant materials and buildings and things like that we can do, to upgrade things, and things that can cut down our emissions and pollutions. That's not just hurting the earth, but hurting us if our air and water and soil and food is polluted, and bringing those kind of technologies in. And I think really maybe people touch on a little, but not as extensively. I haven't seen anyone other than someone like Zoltan, or someone that ran, maybe that had it in their proposal, that has spoken about those kind of things at all. Just they seem to be, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but a lot of platforms seem to be geared around what like the hot button topic is, and so whatever like the hot topics might be of the moment, a lot of times they put a lot of focus on that, and what their stance on and is on that, or a couple of them, instead of just solving all the issues. Because if you take care of all of the issues, there aren't even going to be these hot button items that always come up so much, because the things will be taken care of, and we have the ability to do that now. So
yes,
yeah, I think they're very different.
Indeed, it does seem like the Democratic Party platform these days focuses predominantly on the wedge issues that we discussed, and there's very little mention of using science and technology to solve problems. Rather, it's more about aligning yourself with the blue tribe on particular issues that are considered to be problems. So it's more akin to signaling, like, yes, I'm for social justice, I am for the right to choose, I am for gun control, I am for X, Y, and Z, and against A, B, and C. Whatever the Republicans are for, I'm against. That seems to be the Democratic Party approach. And even say with Bernie Sanders, who tried to do something a bit different, we still didn't hear much about science and technology from him. We didn't hear much about life extension from him or from his supporters. And that was a shame, because he did have an opportunity with the following that he had gained to emphasize those issues as well. And I think those who truly want to improve human well-being should be focusing on some of the most transformational possibilities in existence today. Now, Jason pointed out that Buckminster Fuller had a very insightful statement that's relevant to this discussion on wedge issues. He said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So that, I think, encapsulates what transhumanists try to do. And that is a sharp contrast with mainstream political parties, both the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, David, did you want to say something on this?
Yeah, I do, a little bit from maybe a slight tangent. When we're talking about wedge issues, we're talking about things which are essentially perpetual. We don't want the wedge issue to go away. That allows us to hang on to a particular base or to alienate and keep others out that we don't want. So solving problems then becomes a big issue. Now, we've just had Biden's first 100 days in office. And whatever anybody thinks about that, what I really want to talk about is, what would your first 100 days in office, or your first 6 months, however you would set up your milestones, so that you could focus your discussion on, here's things that need to be done, and here's, if we pull together, using that diverse group of people, which I think you can pull together, here's where we plan to be in 6 months. This is my vision. And when somebody throws a wedge issue at you, you go, yes, but, and then launch into, here's where we're going, and here's how we're going to get there. And please judge me by this on my 100th day or my 180th day, or whatever you set out to be. So having big preamble, my question then becomes, what do you want to do in that first 100 days? What do you want to do in that first 6 months?
Well, as probably most people know by now, my platform really is on problem solving, change. It is a platform of change, but that change is only going to come about by problem solving. So really, problem solving is a huge component of the issue. Again, one thing that I think is a little different is trying to work on all of the issues, which is something that is a lot of people have a certain thing that they or a few things that they pick, and try to stick to. I think that the primary focus obviously has to be anything that is harming people or causing a threat to their life. So, for example, the Housing for All initiative that we have is very important to get started on, because any day that someone is without a house, a safe house that has, all of the utilities that it needs and things like that, especially people that are on the street, they're at risk of sickness and death, that persons that have a home that is warm or cool, and has the utilities on, are not at risk of. Of course, we're all at risk of different things on Earth still at this time, but they are at more risk because of not having that. So housing is a huge thing. And what I've been working on in regards to housing is setting up different persons to come in and to help the people that we already have here working on it, but that to make sure that we have people also that specialize in addiction, mental health issues, and things like that. So one of the very, very first things is housing. Then also making sure that the utilities and things like that are going to be on for these people, and that it's safe and secure. We need to also make sure that things such as our water are actually going to be safe, since we're water systems. And the city already has a planned redevelopment for the city's water system. But what I've been looking into with the grant writers and people that I've been working with in affordable housing is we aren't even looking just to have people be housed. We want to make sure that our pipes that are in the individual houses and schools and businesses are replaced, so that they aren't these lead pipes and things that we have all over, and that our quality of water, we're looking to bring it up to the higher standard that we have. Not even just the standard requirements. We're looking to bring bring that quality up for persons. So working on housing, the replacement of any, lead pipes. Also, a lot of the homes here, since this is an older city, have knob and tube electric, which can really create some problems. So there's grants that are available that have already been being done in different cities and are still available for other cities. This actually just went through in New York, where they have grants for the landlords to replace the plumbing and the electric. So things like that, getting everybody housed, making sure that everybody is fed, and then working on ways to improve that. So there's, we may have to initially say get everyone into a house, or getting everyone housed, and there may still be those pipes in there and that electric in there, but first we get the house, the roof over their head, then we get this not even, it's not after, we'll be working on them all simultaneously, but sometimes different things come in before other things come in. So we get them in the house, and then we make sure that everyone's houses has the right plumbing and the right electric, and it is safe. If there's any kind of asbestos or anything like that we have it removed. These things are all already being done. So meeting the basic needs of making sure that people have housing, food, water, and things like that is really going to be first. But setting things up so that we have a list. We really need to put our administration to work on identifying. We really need a survey, so to speak, of identifying all of the needs that there are, and then working on them. So it's just going to be a nonstop, continual problem solving. And so, some people may have already had their pipes replaced. They may have already had their electric replaced, and they don't need that. But, with 77,000 people, for us surveying and working on identifying all of the needs that everybody faces, and then actually having the list of the people that need this, and having people work on each, excuse me, my nose is running, having people work on each of these needs, bringing in different experts in each field to address them, and to work with the people here that, maybe we have people here already working on those, some of the issues too, but helping give them more help and give them more funding that we know is around, to expand that, and bringing in people where we don't have experts on it. So the first beginning ones, as I mentioned, is really going to be what can we do right now to remedy anything that is unnecessarily making people sick or killing them. And a lot of times, again, that's the housing, not having access to food, not having access to water, not having access to medicines, medicines and medical care. Also if there is any kind of maybe crime or something like that is also going on, causing that problem. So one example too could be, yes, when we talk about food, just because if people are starving, obviously they're not going to have a quality of life. But we may be able to get the food out to everyone and then progress over time. After we're sure that people are getting 3 meals a day and everybody is getting 3 meals a day in our city, that we might be building. For example, we have a proposal for a vertical farm here. So at first, obviously it takes time to build a vertical farm. We don't have it here yet. So there's construction and then getting it, it's staffed and then waiting for the products to grow and things like that. But that doesn't mean we can't feed everybody in earlier. So maybe we meet the need where we satisfy the need of hunger, but then we work towards, we're also simultaneously working towards building this vertical farm that's going to make sure that all the food is, everyone has access to organic food and that our crops are protected against storms and bugs and, different things that happen when you're, or elements, winter elements that will come, maybe from having it outside or something. So we can meet the basic needs first, and that's really what the beginning of the term would be. And then, but while we're working on those needs and getting those met, we're simultaneously setting up for the longer projects that may go in. Again, an example was housing. Obviously, if you are on the street and you have nowhere, to sleep at the street and barely can take a shower or do anything like that, first priority would be to get you in a house. But we don't want you staying in a house where there's lead pipes or potential for faulty wiring or something like that. So we may need to get people in a house like that initially, but then we have a list that house needs to also, we have to apply the grant there and come in and do the housing and do the pipes. So it's really continual upgrades to our systems and continual upgrades to the quality of life. But because I do know, some places where people would be running, they may not have this basic needs challenge that we have. Maybe in their area, they already have the basic needs, solved. Maybe they don't have homelessness. Maybe they don't have extreme poverty and things like that, or be in a food desert, like we are. So that provides some more maybe basic needs challenges here, and that would really be what the beginning of the campaign is, and then just continually working on it for as long as we're fortunate to have the administration. You hope a term is 4 years, but you can't just think of it as just 4 years. You have to think of going beyond that 4 years, and and keeping improving. So really, it's just going to be bringing in everyone that really cares about Camden and cares about improving the quality of life here, and hopefully not just here. Hopefully the things that we're able to do here will be an example for other areas and other candidates and people to use in their areas. But to start, we have to meet all the basic needs first, because you can't really expect people to function well if their basic needs are not met. Of housing and food and water and access to medicines and things like that, and then just working to bring them to all of them to the top quality level that we can.
So in terms of access to food, Zach Richardson is intrigued by your proposal to create a vertical farm, and he would like to hear more details on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a couple of things for food. Again, it would take some time to build a vertical farm. It's actually, they built one in Newark, New Jersey. I don't know if everyone has heard of this company called Aero Farms, but they built a huge one up in Newark. As far as I know, or I should say, I don't know how much they're doing in regards to giving it to the community, giving it out to the community. But I know that they are selling it into local areas. It is fresh, all organic produce, which is one of the advantages of having vertical farming. Of course, there's so many advantages to having vertical farming. New Jersey has extreme winters. And so, even if we put, for example, fruit trees, around so that people can always walk around and pull something off to eat, or we have, say, a Grow Foods Not Lawns organization come in and help everyone to learn how to convert their yards into gardens and things like that, and put in city orchards where people can do it. We still have winter where nothing's going to be able to grow, and there's also still bugs that you have to keep off, and of course there's natural ways to do that so we don't have to put pesticides down, and things like that. But inside this vertical farming, obviously, we don't need any of that because there is no exposure to the elements. And now I don't know. I don't know that AeroFarms built their building in a disaster resistant way. I guess they, people build it as much as they can, but a lot of people aren't familiar really. It's still a very new topic with the materials and shapes and things like that of the buildings that actually make them resistant against hurricanes and tornadoes and flooding and fire. But the Venus Project has worked on that for quite some time with their development against disaster resistance, because they have known that these climate change issues were going to be coming in, and they had a Category 5 hurricane directly hit the research center a few years ago, and all 10 of the buildings survived, and the trees, the palm trees and everything, they were ripped and thrown everywhere, because it was a spot on hit. But they had domed buildings, and what happens when it comes to hurricanes and tornadoes and winds is that a domed building versus a triangular or square shaped roof, it forces the winds back up inside themselves, so they can't grip it to rip it apart, so things like that, especially with us being on the water. Here we have hurricanes, in New Jersey and things like that. So, and plus having the materials, be fire resistant. And things like that. So in those vertical farms, you don't have to use pesticides. Again, not that you have to use pesticides and insecticides and stuff. Anyway, if people were to really look into it, there are natural ways that don't hurt people to keep pests off and things like that. But there's no exposure to bugs, there's no exposure to elements, and we can even build on these existing vertical farms and really make sure that they're not going to be gripped by a hurricane, or tornado. And that's something that we can do to really all of our buildings here. We can start to, this is again another thing, like obviously the first thing is to make sure everyone's housed and they have a roof over the head of some sort, because they're sleeping on the street. But then we want to work toward developing technologies where they're not going to be able to come through with a hurricane and rip it to shreds, and then you got to rebuild it, and do all these different things year after year after year with the FEMA and all these grants. If we just constantly work on improvements that way. And the other thing about the vertical farm, again, I don't know if AeroFarms distributes to the community, but we would obviously be providing to the community out of there to make sure that they had access to the fruits and vegetables. But it's also another revenue source, because you can sell the produce over to other areas to generate revenue, which is what AeroFarms is already doing. They're a good example to look at of what I'm talking about, except as I mentioned, we would be trying to build it as disaster proof as possible. And I don't know what materials that they used for that.
All right, thank you. Now, Brent, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jennifer, for
Hey,
joining
Brent.
us. Hello. It's been interesting. Been loving everything that you've had to say so far. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to hear if you've got any thoughts on basic income, guaranteed income. And I was wondering if you're familiar with the Mayors for a Guaranteed Income program.
Yes, I have posted about mayors for a guaranteed income on my candidate Facebook page before. I have obviously my personal page, but I have a candidate Facebook page. I think I've posted it on my personal page too. But yeah, I'm very interested in the mayors for guaranteed income, and I saw that I think that Oakland, California, is the first one that's actually implementing it.
Yeah, they're doing. I was actually thinking about that when you mentioned Oakland earlier, and you were relating Camden and Oakland with the fact that there's a heavy presence of minorities, and the result of
Yes.
that is that you kind of get looked over. People move over you, and you don't receive the kind of help that other cities get and stuff. And the one in Oakland, it's specifically geared towards non-white residents, so it's like people well below the poverty line who are Black or Latino or Native American and stuff.
Yeah. We our city is predominantly what's considered minority. So one nice thing, I guess, is about any proposal that our administration would have going, and it's for everyone. It's for all people. It's not gonna be skewed towards really anyone, regardless of their skin color, or anything like that. So we would be trying to put in things for everyone. Although sometimes when there is something like a guaranteed income, the one skewing that it has is that, like you mentioned, it is income level, because obviously if there is people that are fine and don't need any assistance on income, then maybe it may not go to them. Although I've seen other guaranteed income programs that are being tested around the world, and they go regardless even of income. They're giving it to people. I'm very interested in the mayors for guaranteed income. I also saw mayors for universal health care, which they're trying to get universal health care in their cities. So yes, I would be interested if we can implement that here. I don't have enough information, because right now the only place that I have seen that's actually implemented it, even though I read the Mayors for Universal Income website and all of the things that they're trying to do, and also the Guaranteed Income and the Universal Healthcare websites and their proposals. And I would absolutely be one of the mayors that signed on for their area, the only one that I've seen implement it. And they just announced, Oakland just recently announced, I think it was just a little bit earlier this year, that they are going to be the first really city that's putting that out. And I think they're doing $500 a month to the people that are under the poverty line, which is a huge difference to people. It may not sound like a lot of money to everyone necessarily, but I mean, that's the difference between your car payment and your utilities, or the rest of your rent, or your food, or whatever. So so all of those kind of programs, anything that a mayor may be able to do on their own level, I want to be involved with, and we want to assign people to. This is really again, I'm bringing up problem solving, because that's all we're interested in doing in our administration is problem solving for people. And so anything that needs to be done, we would want to be exploring all of the possible ways to do it. As long as this goes without saying, but obviously ways that are only ways that are not harmful in any way to, to anyone or something like that. But we want to explore all of them. And I know that some of these things, like, the mayors for universal healthcare and things like that, you may not even be able to implement it yet. Or, because even how the mayors for guaranteed income started, at the time that they started and they all started kind of joining on and working with each other and building it, they may not have been able to implement it at that time because it needed work to develop and things like that. But now they are, so even ones, other things that maybe right away we can't implement it right away, we still want to join on with them and build it, and try to implement it, when we're able, because connecting with other mayors, obviously, to work on stuff is also a really nice way to help get things through. But yeah, I did hear about them. Yeah, it's great you brought that up.
Very could Thank you.
Yeah, and it would be a big help here. Anything that we can do to help, because every issue that there is, we have it. Camden it's the poorest city in the in New Jersey, and one of the poorest in the United States. So we have it, but we do have a very small population, considering for being a metro city. Metro cities usually have very large populations. And so, I think really just applying the scientific method to the issues that we face, which is really good to, all right, let's sit down. What are the issues? Okay, let's get to work. Like, start brainstorming, and make sure that these issues don't alienate anyone or hurt anyone, or else you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. But, and because we're interested in all of them. You don't want to shut out any kind of potential help or whatever, that might come in, even if it may take a little bit of time to develop it, because it's a constant work in progress. Always, there's no, if I get the position and I'm reelected for every term of the rest of my life here, I still there wouldn't be a final frontier or a place to stop, because you're always going to be able to upgrade the quality of life for your people, just always, and make improvements to the city, because that's just life, and moving forward with progress and moving into the future. And that's really the whole point of government, is just to try to bring that about, the best quality you can for your people. In my opinion. What else are you doing? But yeah, I'm real interested in that program. It's really nice, and I actually was just in a meeting too, a recent meeting, smart city, a smart city forum, and so I wasn't on the forum, but I attended the forum, and it was smart cities and it's a continual progress about bringing technology into the cities, and I got to connect with another mayor, and we have a meeting coming up, which is nice too, but I think these different kind of things and connecting with everybody in these kind of ways is just another way to network out. And the Transhumanist Party already has such a great network of scientists and researchers and business people and future, people that are into futuristic technologies, but keeping reaching out to these people. I think that if you do have mayors that do care, they are interested in connecting to other people. You know what I mean? They're not interested in kind of just keeping it for themselves. They want to help other people improve their areas too, and help, just keep upgrading things. And that was a nice seminar too. Yeah.
So Zach Richardson is curious more to find out more about the home renovation education you're proposing, and what people is this intended for? Is this intended for current homeowners, or is this intended more as job training for people who want to get involved in the renovation industry and perhaps be hired by others to renovate homes that are in need of repair or maintenance?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks. So the both really, because my husband and I have worked in renovations for the last couple years, and we were working in another county before we even moved down to Camden. But then now we've been working in Camden on those particular houses for some years. And I think another thing about Camden that is quite unique versus some areas. I'm not saying that no other areas have this issue, but it is the vacant houses, the vacant amount, just the sheer amount of vacant houses that we have, and also that is a very historic city, so the architecture here is also, very very beautiful, and I'm a big fan of new homes and progressive things and stuff too, but we can also do a lot with what we have here too. So what I kind of want to make sure, uh this proposal covers a lot of different aspects. One thing is just, this kind of falls under the Housing for All initiative, but it also falls under the Employment Opportunities initiative that we have listed there. So some of them do kind of cross over into one another. But because we have so many vacant houses here, and what happens a lot of times with the vacant houses is they get, especially if the city becomes in possession of them for some reason, maybe like taxes have piled up and so now they're city owned or something like that. What seems to be the pattern is they're sold off very inexpensively, maybe $500 or $2,000 or something like that. And so, then the city gets that little lump of money at that time, and that's about it. But if we were able to retain these houses that the city comes across, and also not just those, and other ones that are being sold in the city, if we're able to purchase them, instead of letting them all go to investors. Because one thing I want to make sure is that the city doesn't get gentrified. It's nothing against investors, of course, or having people come in and stuff like that. But I want to be right now, especially, there's plenty of stuff for everyone, and and we can. I really want to set things up so that the people that live here are the ones that are able to become the homeowners and own their own house and not have to rent. And if they are interested in becoming landlords and things like that, that they have real paths to acquiring other houses, because there's things that can be set up, and then maybe would help people that might not be able to always buy a house traditionally, rent with the options to buy, seller financing, and things like that. That oftentimes people are paying rent far more than a mortgage would even cost them, depending on where they live. But maybe they don't have enough of a down payment, or maybe their credit isn't perfect because life is hard and things, but they're paying their rent, and much more. And there's non-traditional ways that we've seen just from getting into real estate ourselves, that we could put on a much larger level than just an individual investor, to help our people really become the people that are benefiting from the progresses that are going on in Camden, instead of just people that are like, oh, maybe Camden's going to make some money and coming to invest, and don't live here or something like that, gathering all of it up. So and then one of the other things that we were talking about, not just offering all these different homeowner paths, but by renovating the houses and keeping those on the as assets of the city also is another way to bring in revenue for the city. And it was funny because I hadn't actually ever heard of course, I know that the city has houses on the books that they rent and things like that. But I just saw a proposal from another city. I think it was Pittsburgh. I don't know. I have to go look back through my millions of posts. But and they said the same thing, that they're starting this initiative not to sell off their houses anymore, but to keep them and to renovate them and have them, on the books collecting equity, also if you do choose to sell them to the people that live in the city, so it's just really building the city's books up. And then by doing that, you're going to need renovations, you're going to need renovations of the property. So what better way to do that really than to offer the opportunity to the people that live in the city, because we have there's a lot of different things involved with renovations. And not all of them require, extensive licensing and long-term apprenticeships, and things like that to get through. There's things like, sheetrocking and painting and floor renovations and installations and things like that people could learn very quickly. And we can offer paid training for that, and then we can have people that live here working on beautifying the city, and also giving them paths to purchase it if they want it. And that kind of training could really be for anyone that's interested. And then, of course, if they wanted to do more extensive training, something towards licensing or something like that, then we could have that available too. So that would be for homeowners if they wanted to learn the training themselves, or people if they wanted to were not homeowners and wanted to go through the training also. And some of the other initiatives we have, like the city murals initiatives and things like that, would really get people engaged, but also paid, getting paid and learning these types of occupations that even if they wanted to move out of Camden at some point, is going to be something that they can use, that's going to be a good source of employment for them. And so, that's really what we want to do is get as many people that we want that are paid well and doing well and learning this and quickly. You don't want to make someone have to wait 4 years to be in the field, but that doesn't mean they can't start and then keep going for training, if they wish also. And just to get everybody involved in beautifying our city.
Yes, indeed. And Alan Crowley points out that in Indianapolis, after the Depression, the banks ended up owning entire neighborhoods of repossessed houses, and then the city made a deal with the banks for buyers to be able to purchase a deed for a penny if they would put in $20,000 in home improvements.
Yes, I've heard of programs like that before. And some of these investor sorry, our city has soundtracks. So I've heard of those before, and even some of these times where the houses are auctioned off, like I was saying, for a small amount, sometimes you do have to show that, you have some kind of a reserve for, the improvements and things like that. And that may work, but we also want to make sure that people are not cut out from being able to buy the house because they don't have the money for the improvements either. So we would be working on as many things as we can, as I mentioned, like about these grants that they have for plumbing and electrical, which can be a big brunt of the cost. The plumbing and electrical can really be a majority of the cost there too. That they have access to that, because we don't want people to be excluded from being able to buy their own house, just because they may not have all of the money to rehabilitate it or something like that. So there's a lot of different paths that could go with that. It might be that we renovate them and then give them the ability to do it, or else if they want to do it, then we would want to have some paths available for them to get access to the money that they need to redo it if they don't have it.
Yes, and Jason actually has a question with regard to the plumbing issues, given the obsolete plumbing. Would replacing all of that plumbing create a lot of jobs? And if so, what kinds of jobs would that create? Would it create jobs that can be done without a college degree?
I think most of the jobs that involve renovations, most of them don't involve a college degree. But when you get into things like plumbing and electrical, that can require licensing. So it may be more of like a trade school type of licensing that you go through versus a college degree for some of those, and that would be the degrees that may take a little bit longer for some persons to get involved with, and we may need in the meantime to bring in some people to help us that have already obtained their licensing in those areas. But there's so many other ones that we could quickly train people in to work on other things, as we mentioned, like the sheetrocks and installations and paintings and things like that. But for the plumbing to go through, to have all of the people's plumbing replaced, which we do want to get working on that as much as possible for the homes that are occupied. Now we have a lot of unoccupied homes, but the homes that are occupied in the schools and the businesses and places where people are drinking water, we want to make sure that it's not getting contaminated with lead and things like that. So we would obviously be laying out all of the different houses that need to get worked on according to the ones that are occupied, and then as we were working on the unoccupied ones and starting to get them sold or occupied or things like that, then we would be working on that too. So if we don't have enough, because those ones do take some time to train for, to become licensed in them. So if we don't have enough, then we would be offering some jobs to persons in that area to come in and help us in the meantime while other people train.
So we've spoken about renovating existing housing. Now also construction of new housing could help alleviate the housing shortage. And Zach Richardson states that he would recommend eliminating zoning laws so that huge amounts of housing could be built for people to live in cheaply. Mike Lazine agrees the zoning laws are definitely a large reason why there's not more housing, and building material costs are already quite high. So with the zoning restrictions, in addition to those costs, it makes it very difficult to construct new residential properties. What are your thoughts about the feasibility of repealing or at least relaxing zoning laws in Camden so that more housing could be built?
I think it's very feasible. That's actually something that I was bringing up to one of the grant writers that I was working with that already did a lot of affordable housing in New York. She worked with Mayor Koch on a lot of his affordable housing initiatives that he put through. And I think that the mayor probably is really the position that would be able to help relax the zoning laws in their city. You know, if anyone has the position to do that, it would really be the mayor. You know, working with the zoning board and things like that to relax them. So I think it is very feasible, and I think there are a lot of ways that we can get new housing, you know, put through here. We have a lot of empty lots here too. You know, we have a lot of empty lots, and then we have a lot of boarded up houses. But a lot of the houses that are taken down, I think sometimes they're taken down too quickly, demolished too quickly. I think that they really could mostly all be renovated. I mean, almost anything can be renovated unless it has some really bad structural problems that you can't repair. And there's not that much of that, you know, because everything can be stripped down and redone. But in some cases, it may be that, especially if there's empty lots and things like that, and we have proposals that, you know, if we were able to take down some housing, a couple, say we were able to take down a couple single family houses there, but in that place, we're able to put something that all of a sudden has 100 units there instead of having, you know, 7 single family houses, then that might be something that is really worth exploring, because you know, it's going to provide a lot more, you know, brand new. And of course, when you build new, you know, you can build with all the new technologies and the materials, and you know that you know, that one is way more disaster resistant and things like that, but potentially you know, and also maybe more even technologically advanced, because you can do you know, as much as you're able to do with the new stuff. You know, you can wire you, but you know, we can do that with the old stuff too, depending. We've really, you know, put a lot of tech into some of the stuff that we've been working on and everything too. So yeah, I think that's very feasible. It's already been done, you know, by mayors that were concerned with housing. Some people don't really have that on their platform, I guess.
Yes, indeed. So it would be a combination of renovating existing buildings and making it more feasible to construct new housing using the most advanced and reliable techniques that are available. Now, Jason has a question with regard to your position on police reform and community policing. Can you tell us more about that idea?
Yeah, that's a really big thing for me. It's a huge part of what I think needs to go into effect everywhere, not just Camden. I apologize, my noise is running through this whole interview. But one thing that I would say is very fortunate about Camden that we have already is that the police force for quite some time now has been very interested in reform. And they themselves are very interested in the reform, and they're interested in the community policing. Time and time again, especially recently in light of all these protests and things that have been going on, our police have stood with the people and marched in the protests, you know, and have expressed over and over that they are looking to be examples of community policing to the nation. And so I'm very happy that they are expressing that, because it will be very hard if the police department was not interested in reform and not interested in community policing, to go up against a police department that is not interested in that. That must be very scary for candidates that are trying to do that with a police department like that. But ours is very interested in it, and so I really want to take that as far as we can go. I'm excited actually to speak with the police department and work on what we can do, because it isn't even just the nation. I would say, unfortunately, our nation, if you look at other nations and how their police treat their citizens, we are not high on the list of doing the best with it. And not only do we want to bring our police up to be an example to the nation, but I would like to bring in the de-escalation techniques, and things that they have even from other nations, because their societies where they have completely worked any kind of police brutality out of their system. I mean, they don't have it at all, and even if someone is, has a gun or has a knife or has something like that, they still, to handle it without brutalizing them. And I think that we can always improve it. I was very excited to hear that Newark, New Jersey, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Newark, New Jersey, but it's tough. But in Newark, New Jersey, actually, their police didn't fire their guns once in 2020. There was not one firing, and I really was so excited to believe to read that, especially that it's right there in New Jersey, because I think we can work with them directly, right away, because it's right there in our own state, about any kind of practices that they have, and put that right in, since it's already, like I said, in our state, and go past that and just keep going past that. And I'm very excited that our police force is looking to be that example to the nation, because I want us to be an example to the nation, and there's so many things that the police can do to help the community and really be a huge benefit to the community, besides just coming when called for some type of protection or something like that, that they can do to help, that I think we just have to expand that in every way that we possibly can. And again, I'm really excited, because I think that it would be much harder if the police force was not interested in reform and not interested in the community policing, but they are. So thankfully some steps have already been made in that direction, and I just want to expand it as much as we can. The same thing for our we have a prison here too, and there's examples like, just like Norway, how they are with their, detention centers, and there's so many examples of how people are with their policing. I mean, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Slovenia, just the list goes on and on of where they're like, why do your police kill you? That we don't understand, like what is happening, that maybe even some of them, and again, it's obviously we're working on a city level, but hopefully even maybe some of them may be willing to help share their de-escalation techniques with us. And so if we just keep working on that, and helping our officers and supporting our officers in every way we can, to just become more empathetic and really learning more and more that the absolute last resort ever, if that resort is even ever taken, would be to hurt a person, no matter what is going on.
Yes, indeed. In fact, in Japan, police brutality is essentially non-existent. The number of people killed by police for several decades has been in the single digits in the entire country of Japan. In many European countries, police brutality is minimal. Police in some countries don't even carry firearms.
Yes.
And indeed, there are authoritarian countries where police brutality is less of a problem than it is in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Russia, which is an authoritarian country right now, there are numerous protests against the Putin regime, and sometimes people get detained. Sometimes police do resort to force. They beat up protesters, but nobody gets killed by police. Essentially, the worst complaints, and I listen to complaints from the Russian opposition quite frequently, are that people are unlawfully jailed, or the police are beating up protesters. But it's essentially inconceivable even there right now that the police would fire on a crowd. Now that's Russia, it's not Belarus, which is in a far worse state right now. But Belarus is essentially one of the most authoritarian dictatorships right now. And I think it still compares favorably to the United States in terms of the number of outright killings by police. So there is an issue in terms of how reflexively the police use deadly force in the United States. It's not that they intend even to kill, it's that their training is that killing is an option, and an effective option that they can resort to if they even have a momentary feeling that their lives may be in danger. It's almost like they think, well, we don't know if this is a threat or not, but we see this suspicious looking object or this motion that somebody has undertaken, and we have a split second to decide, and if we don't shoot and kill that person might kill us. And it is a very paranoid way of thinking. How is it that in other countries in the world, police don't think that way and they don't get killed?
Yes, it's the absolute last resort, if it even is a resort. As you mentioned, some people don't even carry weaponry of that sort. But there's definitely other things to explore. Obviously, even things like tasers or tranquilizers or something like that, while they still hurt people, may hurt people, but it sure isn't as much as a bullet. There's a lot of training in weapons disarmament, like you said, of really, it has to go through that's the absolute last resort. You have to be training and every other kind of approach, and it's exampled all over the world that even in cases where people, where the people have guns, and firing, and even here it's, been done where people have, and it's unfortunate to say, but a lot of times it's also, again, geared toward minorities, again, of where a lot of the brutality is coming. And then, you see these cases where it may even be a case of they're doing something much more threatening, and yet they haven't been killed or even hardly harmed in that case. That restrained, yes, and arrested, yes, but so it can be done, and those types of practices are exactly what have to go through, and all the way to up to what, again, it's what are the top in the nation, and then what are the top in the world, and you just keep working and refining and upgrading these different systems, including the policing system. And again, like I said, I am so happy that our police department wants to do this, because and on their own they're saying and walking with people and during protests, instead of shooting them or whatever some of the people did during the protest, because that's just It's wonderful, because that's very, very hard to go up against a police station, police department that would not want, to implement change. So I just watched a video from a police trainer here, not here in Camden, just here in the United States. This was the trainer. This goes back to what you were saying about how we have to either training them in this paranoid way, and that it's okay to do it. But he was even beyond it, in that he was basically really encouraging them to use that first, like to use that first, and he was talking about how good the sex was after a kill.
Was this Dave Grossman?
I don't remember his name.
Yes.
I have to go see what his name was.
Right. I recall seeing videos of the sort, and the name of the trainer was Dave Grossman. He is a former lieutenant colonel, I believe, in the U.S. military, who also taught soldiers using a term he called killology.
Yes,
which is
then it must have been him,
yes,
because
yes.
I remember that term. Yes, and he's focusing them on killing. It really was. I mean, telling him how good this what? How do it's mind-blowing. You're like, how do you have a job? Like, how is this a thing? How is
Right.
this real? But it is real, and fortunately I don't think that's the mentality here in Camden with our officers. I think if anything, that they have been progressing on the way that they police the community and trying to orient it more community building already. So I think that anything that we would provide to them or be able to have them do, that I think they would be open to it and very interested in it, because they have expressed, that they are. But yeah, it's awful. Excuse me, just 1 second. I'll be right back. I just want to blow my nose 1 second. I'm so sorry.
Yes, and while we have this as the subject of discussion, Brent shared a link about Dave Grossman's training methods, which I also posted in the YouTube chat. Essentially,
I noticed during the George Floyd trial that the police have this policy of they will show force to try to deter, their part of their policy is to, shock, to try to keep people in line. And I don't think that's that good of an idea.
Right. It only creates a resentment and a backlash. I think if people saw that the police were committed to peaceful techniques and de-escalation tactics, then the protests also would not have escalated to the extent that they did. Now, Dave Grossman, I think, has done a great disservice to police departments and to how policing is done in America, because he points out that people have a natural inhibition to killing. And to any sensible, reasonable person, that's a good thing that we have an aversion to inflicting bodily harm on other human beings. Most people don't want to do it. That's why crime is as low as it is.
Yes.
And his entire training regimen is focused on removing that inhibition, getting people comfortable with using deadly force. Yes. And in my view, that creates antisocial monsters. Yes. And there's no guarantee that a person without that inhibition is going to limit his actions to violent criminals. In fact, once you remove that inhibition with respect to anyone, I think you remove it with respect to everyone. And it's no wonder that a lot of former veterans in combat situations, a lot of former police officers too, who have used deadly force, have mental health issues afterwards.
Yeah, that's instilling sociopathic traits into the police force, and when we should be taking the psychopaths and narcissists off the police force, not training them to be that way.
Yes, it was very scary to see that video, because especially because he's the trainer, so he's the one, as you said, instilling that. And then it just makes you wonder, this is just someone that happened to get a video of this one trainer and get it out, and release it. But it makes you wonder how many of the trainers are doing that. If that, how many other ones are putting that in, and it's kind of sad, because really there should be obviously we should be putting in the best practices of what's going on in the world. We're the United States of America. We have access to all of our allies around the world, and we should be working with them. If they've solved a societal issue already and progressed and stuff, we should be talking with them, all of them, to have a meeting with them, to have them come in and help do that here. If people have already worked police brutality out of their systems, and there's so many countries, I know that there are countries that are worse with it than we are, but we're not looking at that. We're not obviously not looking to bring in worse systems, so, but if we were to really meet with them and have a nationwide policing reform, where the way that we don't allow it anymore. We don't allow that type of training to our officers anymore. They're there to protect people, and serve people. And there's going to be times, it's a hard job. There are going to be times where, yes, somebody has a knife or someone has a gun, and then there's something wrong with their brain, at that moment, or something like that. But they should be looking at it always to try to do it in the least violent way as possible. And there's so many things. There's so many, when you look at even just martial arts, and people that do a lot of martial arts, things like that. There are ways that you can disarm people, and do that, especially when you have a whole force. You have a whole force that could come out, maybe against one person or something like that. It's really, we're just making excuses for bad behavior now if we try to act like, that we can't do it. There's
Yes.
a little girl, a 15-year-old girl that had a knife that just got shot in her chest 4 times. They shot a 15-year-old girl four times, and she had a knife in her hand. You're telling me a police department can't get a knife out of a little girl, a 15-year-old girl's hands without shooting her 4 times in the chest? I was reading a post about it, and there was actually a bunch of teachers that commented on it, and they were talking about how they have to break up fights in school where people have scissors sometimes, or a knife sometimes, or a staplers, and something like that, and they're not shooting them 4 times in the chest to break up the fight. That's a big, it's huge, and I really do hope we become, I really hope we become an example of policing for the nation. It would be wonderful. So, because I obviously want Canada to be an example period in all of our, societal issues to the nation. But that's so important, and it's sad. It's sad because we have the access to our, like I said, our allies that have already worked this out. We have plenty of people. We could, really change not just our policing, but a lot of things, if we really wanted to just sit down and do it. But,
Yes.
On a mayoral, on a city level, a mayor can, implement de-escalation on, in their city, and then again, hopefully, if it does become an example, hopefully it starts that way, and other mayors start to implement it in their city and do things like that, and then it builds, and then hopefully, if there's just enough outcry, but also police standing by the citizens instead of hurting them more, then maybe we can get it on a national level.
And it's important for the police to regain the guardian mentality, the idea that the police is there to protect and serve rather than the warrior mentality. And I think the problem with people like Dave Grossman is that they have imported essentially a military mindset into police departments. And I do think it's all about whether the police accept that mindset or not. And it seems in Camden, they're still willing to retain the guardian mindset, which would make your job easier as mayor, because the police will be happy to implement the de-escalation tactics, the community policing, and just behaving as human beings toward other human beings. John H. points out that there was a study that said that even in a war, a large percentage of the combatants deliberately don't shoot to kill. He thinks it may have been as high as 20% missing on purpose. I think because there's still some recognition that even one's adversary in a combat situation is human. And
I heard of that before, that study,
right.
Yeah.
In that case, the shots are intended to scare or deter rather than to kill. But unfortunately, in many cases, the police already have overwhelming force advantages. In any situation where you have multiple police officers and just an ordinary citizen, whether or not that person is armed, the police have the upper hand already through strength of numbers, through superior training, through superior equipment. So why in the world would they need to shoot to kill? And Mike Lazine points out it would be nice if all the police had weapons like we see in sci-fi, weapons with a stun feature. And even if the weapon has a setting to stun and then another setting to kill, they would be trained not to always have the kill feature on. I think I'm reminded of episodes of Star Trek where the phasers are set to stun and they can incapacitate the offender without inflicting any lasting harm.
And I don't know if that has been developed in any countries, any other countries, those type of stunning ones yet. But I'm actually interested in that because we might be able to develop it ourselves if it hasn't been, But there are some places where you have mentioned they don't carry carry guns at all. But sometimes, like again, tranquilizers. By the time a tranquilizer hits you, it really, they have ones that take down, giant elephants and, things like that, and giant animals, so really by about the time a tranquilizer would be hitting a person is about the time a bullet, would be hitting them to help immobilize them that way if you have to. They have a lot of different things. I believe they even have like net guns where like they shoot a net over someone and it really tangles them up, excuse me, things like that. And of course we could always look into development of that. We have the Center for Scientific Solutions proposed for our city, and we could really develop any kind of technology that we need, especially everything that would be leading towards any kind of nonviolence, because that's what we want is to de-escalate any kind of violence to one another in general, and while providing the needs and building new technologies for quality of life.
Talk to us a bit more about the Center for Scientific Solutions and the kinds of research initiatives that it would pursue, as well as the practical benefits that it would bring to the people of Camden.
Yeah, the Center for Scientific Solutions, again, really our whole platform is around applying the scientific method to the issues that we face. And basically for anyone that's not familiar with what that would mean, it would be sort of what I was discussing before about having a survey, of really identifying what all the issues are. And then it would pretty much be twofold, because we would like to be working out of this in combination with, with the other people that are already working on things here to satisfy the needs that we have now, as we mentioned, and take care of basic needs and beyond out of there, but also to be bringing in futuristic technologies. That would be something that would really be able to put Camden at the forefront of science and technology for the nation. And hopefully the world, because we're, connected to so many people now, and especially even just through this party and all the people that we have known, over all these years in the nation, around the world, to actually have someone that's in office. We're always trying to get to politicians, to try to get them to put in something and do something for us, even if we're working on the business ourselves and things like that. We're just always trying to reach them. But if we actually have a center where everybody can really come in and actually develop the technologies and do them in the city, that isn't really anything that has ever really been done before. And it would be a number of different things, because not only would we be able to bring everybody in the city up to the highest quality of life and give them the opportunity to have really first exposure, I guess, to these new technologies that come through and things. This is also new revenue streams, because we can develop anything really, basically, that is, as long as it's obviously not harmful to people or the planet. We're not interested in developing any type of weaponry or any kind of thing like that out of there, but we're interested in developing technology for solutions, solutions that bring about quality of life for people. So there's so many fields that can come out of that center, and again, obviously the first thing that we have to do is address everybody's pressing needs first. That's the first thing that has to be done. But then it's limitless. We can be developing all type of new robotics, different materials, new blueprints for other cities. It really there's really no end to what could be developed out of there, because there's so many people that are interested, in coming together and having a place to develop that out of. It's very exciting. I'm very excited about that center.
Yes, and Daniel Twet says the Center for Scientific Solutions is an awesome transhumanist-friendly name. Now, we have a lot of questions from Zipporah Naomi Pico, but I think all of these questions can be compressed into one, which is, what is your opinion on longevity and immortality science, the pursuit of rejuvenation, age reversal? She mentions technologies like senolytics, CRISPR, Cas9, stem cell treatments. So essentially that entire area of research and then medical application.
What would we be looking to do in regards to that, is the question?
Yes, that and your outlook on that field in general.
Oh, well, yeah, anything that is being explored that is of benefit to people and to the planet. Obviously, the first priority is the mayor is your own individual city, so anything that's a benefit to the people of Camden and our immediate city's environment, but beyond that too, because we would be able to develop things that people all over the nation and the world can use. I'm interested in all the things that are beneficial, to people on the planet. So all of those technologies, anybody that would be interested in coming to help us develop them, then we're interested in it.
Great. And you do have some institutions that do leading edge medical research like Rutgers University and Camden. Indeed, during our previous interview, we discovered that Rutgers already had a partnership with the SENS Research Foundation. At the very least, they were
exciting.
Yes, they were advertising for SENS internships for Rutgers students, biology students who wanted to deepen their knowledge of this field. So there's already a base to build upon in that respect. So that's great. Now, Daniel Twett asks, have there been any candidate forums on the internet or via other media for you to be invited to participate in? And he gives an example. In his area, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce sponsored such opportunities. Of course, there were 9 candidates competing in Thousand Oaks. Maybe the infrastructure in Camden for that isn't as established because they don't expect multiple candidates. But have you looked into that? If you do get past the petition gathering stage and there are 2 candidates on the general election ballot, do you think there are any venues that would be able, for instance, to host a candidate debate or a discussion forum, a town hall where you can meet with people?
I think so. I think there is. I think, as you mentioned, a lot of them are going to wait till they get past that signature gathering stage. There actually was a recent mayoral forum just hosted here on Thursday. And I had only found out that it was getting hosted a couple days before it was getting hosted, actually. Like the following week, and I did send them, a message about it, but they were going strictly off of petitions that were already filed. That's where they got the names of who they sent, the attendance out to, and so the Democratic Party was required to have their petitions in by April 13th, whereas the Independents are not required to have it in until the day before the primary. So that was their particular structure that they had in place for who they chose to be on it. But so if once the petition is accepted and goes through, then maybe they would be interested in having it. I actually spoke to Democratic Socialists of America that are down in South Jersey, which is where we're located in, and they actually were said the same thing, that they actually were supportive of and this is, I guess, less of a forum, but more of if they were going to give help in regards to it, supportive of my entire platform so far. They didn't have anything on the platform that they had any issue with. And they were just, they said they're waiting till after the primary also to see what goes on. And I've reached out to some other local chapters of organizations like that to see too. And yeah, I think also, once the signatures are finished being completed, that there will be more opportunity for that kind of maybe local forums and stuff like that.
Yes. So it seems that the signature gathering is the big filter for you to pass through. Yeah. And if you do, then these opportunities will be made available. Now, I recall your deadline is in June. Could you clarify what day in June you need to submit the petitions by?
June 7th. The primary is June 8th. So I think, if I recall, it actually is maybe even the day of the primary, but in my head I just have it set for the day before, because just to be sure. And I'm hoping to turn it in sooner, as soon as possible, actually, just because I do want to see how it's going to go with the signatures actually being, gone through, and how many are going to be counted, and if there's any kind of dispute. But our election office has really been great and helpful so far. So because I'm calling all the time because I'm like, yeah, I'm an independent and I don't have the whole Democratic Party that knows how all this goes and this and that and that, and they're like, no, that's what we're here for. So and they were the ones too that encouraged to get over the amount. Just in case, that there's any kind of thing if someone becomes inactive or they move or, just for any reason at all. So, yeah, they've been really helpful. So, I'm hoping that there's no issues, with any kind of things like that. But there's just some just may not count. Even I've noticed, even in the signature click, you're sitting there and you're talking to someone about the thing, and they're like, sure, I'll help, and then they fill out their address and it's not in Camden, and you're just like, all right, well, thanks, because that those few just aren't gonna go through. But there hasn't been a lot of that, so.
Yes, so if you're not a Camden resident, don't come over to Camden just to sign Jennifer's petition.
It has to be registered in Camden, registered in Camden to do the signatures. But I did it. It was very nice of them. But
yes, and fortunately, you still have a little more than a month to gather the remaining signatures, but it's good that you're thinking in terms of building in buffers, both in terms of the number of signatures and how early you submit them, just to make sure there aren't any issues. Now, Daniel Twett has an interesting suggestion. What about Camden bucks, which would be a local currency to essentially encourage goods and services to be exchanged within the community and not flow outside of it? There have been other municipalities that have instituted a system like that. And it's an interesting idea. Essentially, money, especially these days when it's not tied to gold or other physical commodities, it's essentially a representation of essentially services that one has provided in the past or is able to provide. So if you have a unit of money, it essentially suggests that you're part of this system of exchange, that you've offered something previously, and as a result, you're entitled to get something in return. And there's nothing inherently that says the US dollar is the only such unit of exchange. Indeed, the whole original premise of cryptocurrencies was that there could be alternative media of exchange which don't rely on the US federal government. They can be generated privately, but some municipalities have experimented with their own local currencies as well that would essentially allow one to get certain items from local businesses that participate in this system, or people could exchange these units for services. Like if you want to hire a plumber or an electrician who is local to the area, they might accept the local currency if they think they could go out and purchase food for it or purchase furniture for it. So have you thought about an idea like that?
I haven't. There's actually a really interesting idea. I guess it could be two ways. It could be sort of like a barter credit, or you could develop a type of your own city currency. If you wanted to call it that too. But no, that's actually a really interesting idea. I haven't, and it might actually go over well here because Camden is really fortunately small businesses. We really don't have a lot of chains or anything like that here. It really is almost all primarily small businesses. We have a Hilton that they just built, which is like the first hotel we've had here in like 50 years. So like we have a Hilton, we have a 7-Eleven, and like a McDonald's, and like a Rite Aid, a very very small ones. And like that's we don't have very many chains, and even the chain, the chains we have, even chains, it's still somewhat local because they're small, independently owned type of franchise sort of, I guess. But how franchises are. I mean, they're owned independent person is running them, but still we really don't even have a lot of that. So that might really be something that that might be an interesting project to develop here. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And Daniel says that neighbors are pretty awesome at taking care of and giving breaks to nearby neighbors. Local currency systems especially leverage this fact. So especially if there are a lot of small business owners and people who patronize those small businesses, and there's enough trust within the community, such a system could have significant buy-in. So that is definitely something to explore. Now, I'm wondering if Art Ramon has any questions.
Yes. Have you thought about the city maybe partnering with robotics companies like Nightscope that have these security robots, and maybe it wouldn't be for the police, but maybe the community police groups like the Guardian Angels would control them. There could be a lot of older Guardian Angels who no longer walk the streets, and they could use the telepresence through the security robot to de-escalate situations. Also, possibly the city collaborating with other robotics companies that have these food delivery robots. It's kind of like little tiny cars, and maybe work it through the community food bank, so they can deliver food to the elderly or people who don't have cars. Some sort of relationship, either a sponsorship or offering incentives for these companies to go in there, maybe test their products with reduced liability, since they'll be on public streets or whatnot. So any ideas on that?
I have definitely thought about having more robotics come in.
Jennifer, I think you got muted for some reason.
Oh, sorry. I have definitely thought about having robotics come in a number of ways too, because I really want to make sure that we get robotics taught in here more and more in our curriculums too, to the kids. And in the colleges and things like that, although we do have some that's already being done. I would like it to be much more extensive, and especially in the Center for the Scientific Solutions, because of course I absolutely want to have a robotics department. I haven't thought about it from the perspective of having the particular example that you mentioned about having it for security, but just having a whole robotics department that is out of the Center for Scientific Solutions, so that persons that want to come in and develop their technologies would be able to come in for the most part and do that here. And be able, like you said, it is a good area that if we have that center there and then people are here doing that from around the world, that it is a good area that we can test different things.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. And now I also want to see if John Carrots has any questions for you. We might also come around to him a little bit later. Oh, there he is.
I'm here now. Yeah, sorry about that. I was having a hard time unmuting.
Hey, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I wanted to mention also about, like Dave had earlier, about having some milestones and predicting what you want to do in, say, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 100 days. Something like that might be nice to have out there for people, but you know how it is, though. You can't tell them that you want to have something done. I think it's best to tell them you want to have something started, because if you say you want something done and it's not done, that's going to be something that your adversaries pick up on. Yeah. That's always something nice. And I also think to make it that, I've heard you say it though, but programs that are going to continue past you. You want to improve Camden and start programs that are going to last whether you get a second term or not. But I would put that, you hope to continue them into a second term if you can, for things that are going to last. And
Yes.
a couple other comments that were related to a few things we talked about, the police forces and stuff. Interesting, you said about different weapons that don't hurt people. After the Rodney King thing years ago, I used to have more karate studios back then. I had 3 karate studios, and I went and did a training in a new weapon called the AKD-48, which is basically a PR-24 with 2 handles. A PR-24 is basically a Okinawan weapon called a tonfa, repurposed for use for military and for the police forces. But the AKD-48 was made of a lightweight plastic. The extra handle, having a handle on both ends, it was made for locking and tying up people's arms, not for beating them. And I went and got certified in this. This was a policeman that was in Ohio that was doing it. And when I came back within and talked to all the police forces in South Central Pennsylvania, none of them were really interested. And so it kind of has to come from the top down. And they were saying, they've already invested in this, they've already invested in that. They told me how the policemen didn't really want to work out or exercise, and it would be one more thing they'd have to train in.
Oh boy!
And it was kind of discouraging that because of the Rodney King backlash, how they came up with a new idea that was not supposed to be hurting people, but locking them up and tying them down and controlling them, and they really weren't interested. And that was very frustrating to me. I thought it was a great idea, but I think,
sounds like a great idea.
Like you said, this has to come from the top down. So if you're the mayor, you have to push this. Another interesting topic we talked about was the military mindset. Now, I had just been out. I had just visited Dave, and I was up in Las Vegas. And the one night I was in Las Vegas, somebody actually shot someone on the strip. And I was at the gym the next day, and the guy was telling me, he says, I don't believe a lot of these things have to do with policemen and the public or color or anything. He says, I think a lot of it, he said, was issues between people that are ex-military, and they're still having issues from having been in the military. And that our government themselves haven't focused on what these people need psychologically and mental health wise. And that when they get into
PTSD and things, you mean?
Exactly. So when they get into confrontation, he said, if you look at some of these videos, he says some of these people's faces, they don't really look like they're in the now. They look like that they're having, they're protecting themselves, and they've gone into a zone. And that's an interesting idea. That is an interesting idea that, mental health might have to be looked at and more counseling or something. That it might not be some of the issues we think, but it might be some leftover mindsets and some other mental health issues that we're not sure of. So those were some comments that I just wanted to make about this. And I also wanted to say that I will try and communicate with you after this. We are in each other's backyard.
Yeah.
And I'd like to try and further help work with you on your campaign and stuff up to and after.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, just to hopefully touch on everything you said. I feel kind of the same way about the milestones are good, but really holding ourselves to, I'm going to have this exactly done in 30 days or 60 days, can get tough, because like you said, you're holding yourself to this specific deadline. So that's why I'm a little more of the mindset of just working on the most immediate needs that are really threatening our citizens first, but at the same time developing all of it, because we really want to have, again, a plan for everything that we're facing here, and work on all of it with the most pressing in place first, and keep working on it. And it is very important to lay everything out so that they will continue, even if I wasn't reelected, which I hope we would all be able to do a good enough job that we would be, but if not, you don't want that to necessarily crumble apart on the next administration, which sadly can happen with these changes. So yeah, I think that's a very good point that you brought up. It's super important to make sure that we have everything lined up for it to continue, and that's really going to come out of how everything is set up with what we do with the legalities of it, and the way that all of that is constructed to make sure that it will continue as much as we can. That is very interesting about what you were talking about in regards to being able to. So basically, what you mean is it would shoot out of the device and wrap around their wrists, right?
No, it actually had a second handle on it, so that instead of using it just to block or strike or jab an opponent with, you would actually use the two handles to interlock into their arms and actually lock and tie them up so that you could restrain them with it. Yes.
Okay.
Sort of like you do kind of when you do wrestling moves, with an arm bar or maybe a chicken wing or something like that. But you would do it with the AKD-48. And the reason they said AKD-48, it's a 48, it's twice a PR-24, But it was a lightweight. It wasn't a heavyweight instrument. It was purposely made out of a lightweight polymer, so that even if you did hit them, it wasn't as hard as hitting them with a PR-24. It was an interesting idea, and they just were not interested because of how much money they already invested in other things.
Do you know of anyone that took that onto their force, or did nobody?
Other than the area in Ohio where the police were doing the training in, I don't think it really went anywhere, and that's a pity.
It is a pity.
Like I said, that's way back from in the early mid-90s there. So it's
and those are all the kind of things. Like I said, I think one really great thing is I think that our force. I don't think that they would have that type of opposition to bringing in new things. I don't think that they're against new training and learning new things. They seem to really have expressed that they want to just continuously improve, as much as I can. So as much as they can. So I think that they would be very open to those kind of ideas. And I'm very open to those kind of ideas. And it would be, police brutality is such a big concern that I think that if we didn't have the police chiefs and police force that we have, really expressing that and really trying to work on it, it would be a lot scarier to try to be, again, if you're trying to work with a department that is not interested in changing that is just absolutely terrifying. So I'm really, I'm happy to hear that. But yeah, I'd be interested in all of those kind of things that we could bring in, and again, that if it is a new technology, well, that has already been done, but if it is something that or whatever, we would be able to, even work on developing that technology at the Center for Scientific Solutions, because that is a solution. It's a solution to bring in our peaceful means to detain people without hurting them.
Yes, and this is fascinating. Now, before we go to Brent, John, what is the name of this device that is able to non-lethally restrain an offender? Because our audience is interested in this as well.
It was called an AKD-48. I'm not sure if it is even made anymore, but I will look it up and see if I can find any kind of links. Well, like I said, it was from the 90s, so.
The AKD-48, correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Now, Brent, please proceed.
Sure. Just wanted to kind of ask a little bit about your expansion of the arts, arts and sciences, but more so specifically the arts. I've been to the Susquehanna Bank Center. I know that's like an incredible venue out in Camden. And I wanted to kind of learn more about your vision on that.
The science this part, I guess I got, it's kind of covered by the Center for Scientific Solutions and, different things there. But yeah, we have, I actually kind of started this concept. My husband and I, we volunteered for the Venus Project for like the last decade, both of us. So we've been down to the research center countless times, and they actually have a very small town. It's only like 2,300 people next to Venus. Venus is very small in and of itself. It's only like 600 people, but there's a small city called Lake Placid next to it, Lake Placid, Florida, and it's a town of murals. And it's this little town. There's like 2,300 people in it. I think they have some nice golf courses. I think that people come for golfing and maybe like kayaking or something like that. But they come to visit this little town because they have murals, all on the buildings of this town. And it really got me thinking here, about having that for here. There's a number of reasons that I want to, would want to do something like that. But it would be in regards to the exteriors of our buildings, any kind of surfaces that we could make artistic. And there's a lot of things that you can make artistic. It isn't just the outside of buildings. It can be benches, it can be sidewalks, it could be really anything that we could come together and work on and develop to make our city a city of murals, with paintings, mosaics. And we already have art here. We do have some murals that we have on buildings and different things like that. And it would really be just to expand it all throughout the city. I do have some other ideas about like our roadways and parking lots and certain things, because I am really interested in exploring different things like solar roadways and stuff like that. So we might be putting some smart technologies in that maybe wouldn't allow us to use certain surfaces, but all of the other ones possible, because it would be another way that we could get people involved in beautifying the city. We could get all our local artists working together, beautifying the city, people that wanted to come in and help us to beautify the city, persons that maybe, have gotten along a path where, they're doing types of graffiti or things like that maybe is being encouraged in the wrong direction, like more towards a type of vandalism, graffiti or something, that might be interested if they were actually able to get paid to make the city pretty with it, their graffitis and things like that, and help stuff like that. And also it would be a way to really make for tourism. There's a whole metro city that's really like geared around. I haven't, I've heard of parts of cities where they, obviously Philadelphia is right here and they have a lot of art and things like that, but where it was really like the whole city was, inclined towards developing these type of arts. I think that would just be an amazing collaborative thing, and it would be so beautiful, and unique. So yeah, that's really the proposal for there, to try to come up with anything we can to make it beautiful. I don't care, the garbage cans could be painted and things like that. So yeah, that's the proposal for that.
Yeah, when I lived in Beijing for a little bit, and they had a section of the city there that was like that, where it was just murals everywhere. And I live in Denver now, and here in Denver downtown, there's been a lot of stuff going like that as well. Where there are like sections of downtown, and like River North is where it's called, where it's just like these giant sprawling alleyways and things like that, and buildings where it'll be like a week or a weekend every year where they have just all of the artists down there at the same exact time. And so you go down there and you watch them all like paint everything, and then a year later they do it all over again, and it's really cool. But like you said, you're so close to Philadelphia. If I was in Philly and knew something like that, if I was just, because when I went to Camden, it was like for a concert and it was brief, but if there was something like that there, I would have gone and checked it out for sure. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think it would just be beautiful. And we have a lot of old buildings and concrete buildings on the side and stuff like that, and that are good surfaces to use for that kind of thing too. So yeah, I think it would be nice, if everybody, the artists can work together with the kids and, the art students and the universities and really, and then training programs on it. And, I think it's just wonderful to develop arts and sciences as much as we can, and that kind of thing. If you have a city, like you said, usually it's parts, it's parts of the city that's doing something artistic. So if it was really on a citywide level, I think people would be coming to Camden from all over the world to see something like that,
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now we have a question from Wait What 469, who asks, in terms of reducing police encounters, what are your thoughts on automated systems for traffic issues such as red light cameras, speed monitoring, fix-it tickets, etc.? I think what is meant by this question is these automated systems prevent the need for a police officer to pull a person over. So that's one less opportunity for an escalation where a deadly incident could occur. If a police officer doesn't pull you over, but you just get a ticket in the mail, you might be annoyed by the ticket, but at least you don't have a risk of getting shot. But on the other hand, you might be getting more tickets. Chicago installed a speeding camera system, which is actually quite stringent, and a lot of people have gotten ticketed for speeding in areas where people commonly speed, because a lot of roads, highways in Chicago have 55 mile per hour speed limits, and very few people go 55 miles per hour on those roads. So what do you think about those systems? There may be a trade-off there. And from my standpoint, I'm undecided on them, but I would be curious as to your thoughts.
I'm interested in, obviously I'm interested in automation, period. So I am interested in different ways of automating. The only thing that I think that you have to take into account with automation in a monetary system, which we all are in a monetary system still, is to make sure that the automation doesn't, that you don't put in so much automation that you don't have people, that you're taking away everybody's jobs, and people don't have jobs. So if it was replacing some type of thing that you have enough training available for them to work in other areas or something, something like that, and also with things like that, I do have a big thing with invasion of privacy. So any kind of automations that we would want to put in, we still have to, again, quality of life of everybody is very important. If people aren't able to obtain money from working or something like that, or systems that we put in place, hopefully we'll be able to keep putting systems in place that can help ease a lot of burdens for everybody, and maybe not make them so reliant on the system, monetary system for everything. But as long as it's not displacing people, and we have enough things behind it to help if we do replace it, and as long as it's not intrusive into people's privacy. So something like that we would really have to take a look at all of the pros and cons, and make sure if we did put something like that in place, that we had those other factors covered, because you don't want just the whole everywhere you go you're just being spied on by every kind of but we do have some things that got launched here. They do have like it's called like Eye in the Sky program that they have put into place here in Camden, for different things in regards to more of an automated view of the city in regards to certain policings and stuff like that. And on one hand, it definitely is a balance like that because at one point Camden was the murder capital of the country, and for a very long time, actually. And then there were some changes that were put into place with our police and things like that. It's also a very small, again, it's a very small metro city, so that did have to do with per capita, things too of the national average. So they did start making some changes like that, obviously to try and help keep the limited police force able to have an eye more on the different crimes and things that were going on here. But I know that just anything that our administration wants to put in, we have to have that balance of doing everything that is going to be for the best quality of life for people and help protect people without being overly intrusive into their privacy. And then that is a hard balance when you're talking about crime. And I think that kind of thing is all going to be developed out of a combination of the governmental administration, the Center for Scientific Solutions, working with the police force, and people really being like, okay, yeah, this might be good because of this, but what are we going to do with the people? And just really talking about all of the pros and cons of anything that we put in, to keep all of those different things balanced. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And the privacy implications concern me as well. Brent says that he could be amenable to automated enforcement that provides multiple warnings before issuing a fine for tail lights being out, or perhaps some automated fines for speeding, but only for people doing wildly excessive speeding, like 30 miles per hour over the speed limit. Sometimes I've seen those kinds of drivers on highways. And I do think in many cases, common sense will tell you if a particular driver is being unsafe. But I do think in many cases, a human should make the decision, at least review the footage and be able to say, well, is this driving really unsafe? And, with regard to your comment on the concern about people being unemployed, perhaps some police officers could come to have desk jobs instead, and they'll be happy because they won't be in any sort of even potential danger if they're monitoring these cameras. And if they're just traffic cops, they don't need to pull these people over necessarily. If there hasn't been an accident, they could just sit at their desks, monitor the footage from the cameras, and make a judgment call saying, well, this is really dangerous behavior, this person should be issued a ticket, or this behavior, it is technically speeding, but everybody is speeding along this stretch at this time of day, so we're not going to enforce that. And police officers do make these kinds of judgment calls routinely. Not everybody who speeds gets pulled over. Sometimes not everybody who speeds egregiously gets pulled over. But in this type of system, they may be able to focus their enforcement on the real serious threats. So it's an interesting conversation. And Wait What 469 says, agreed with the idea of preventing the system from being intrusive. Ideally, it would only record data in the case of an accident and would be a publicly auditable solution. Indeed, I think for autonomous vehicles, and there are already semi-autonomous vehicles that do this, there should be a log to capture, for instance, 10 seconds or 30 seconds prior to an accident, so that it's clear what happened, what was the cause of the accident, was the cause of the accident some malfunction within the system of the vehicle, or was it the decision of a human being? But really, in the longer term, my preferred solution to this entire set of issues would be full-fledged vehicular autonomy, so that all vehicles on the road would be driving themselves. They would be driving at whatever speed limit is considered safe for autonomous vehicles, which could be faster than for manually driven vehicles. Nobody has to worry about traffic infractions because no human will be guilty of traffic infractions. So nobody has to worry about police encounters or dangerous drivers. And I could sit in my autonomous vehicle and read articles or participate in conversations like this one, and not have to think twice about dangers on the road, provided that these vehicles can be designed to anticipate even uncommon or challenging situations with weather, or situations with strange obstacles on roadways. And if people can be confident that these vehicles can do that, then we are in a new and improved world where one major source of frustration for people will just disappear.
That it would be a really one of the more ideal solutions, especially to taking care of anything traffic and, accident wise, really. I mean, some of these things I think that we get tickets for are really just ridiculous. Like when you look at like a tail light, like most of the time, most cars they don't tell you that your tail light is out. You're just driving and it blows out. Why are you getting a ticket for that? That's just crazy, stuff like that. But I think that there's a possibility that we might even be able to develop the autonomous car situation here more than someone else may be able to put it in somewhere else. Another option is to not setting the city up so that you don't even need cars. There may be a way that we can set it up with such great transportation that nobody even wants to bother with cars anymore, and the payments and the maintenance and the insurance and stuff like that, because we get the public transportation so well developed that it becomes more of just a walking city even. Or the few cars that we do have. Not that nobody would never want a car, but especially if you're going outside of the city, like that. But you may not want them as much, and so if we were to really make sure that our public transportation was at the top of its field. And we just got a $260 million grant from our governor for our transportation. And I am really hoping that the people that are in charge of that are know enough to really put things into place to make it as good as we can do, because that is a lot of money, a lot, and we could do a lot with that. So maybe developing our public transportation so there's really almost that is just so clean and so efficient, it's so quick that you don't even want to bother with like I said, the payments and the insurance and the maintenance all the time. And then perhaps for people that do need it, because it may greatly reduce that, there's shared car programs that you might be able to have for when you do want to use it to go out, but maybe you don't want to maintain it all the time, but you want access to it whenever you need it, so maybe stuff like that. And it would be wonderful if we had that, and then the shared car programs were the autonomous cars. I mean, that would just be really one of the more ideal situations. And I think our transportation technology is going to be developed out of the Center for Scientific Solutions. We bring everybody in that is experts in these different transportation fields, and hopefully our transportation, just like everything else, we can bring it to the top that there is. And they already have the autonomous cars, they already have it, they're already developing it, they already test them for 800,000 miles or whatever with no accident and this and that. So why can't we put them in?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I definitely hope that some of that extremely large amount of grant money will go toward emerging technologies and transportation, rather than just filling in potholes using dubious techniques that mysteriously lead the potholes to reform a few years later. I'm reminded of a stretch in Reno, Nevada that is under continual construction and has been ever since I moved to the area in 2009. It's an interchange called the Spaghetti Bowl, and even the name suggests a certain degree of complexity in the structure, but also the roads just get worn down so heavily that there's continual construction there, and not so in other parts of Reno, which is interesting. I'm also reminded of the roads in the Chicago area, which are almost ubiquitously littered with these potholes and other
We're
kinds
littered
of
with potholes in Camden. It is a problem, and there has been roads have seemed to have been like a thing that prior candidates and mayors and people in office have really brought up a lot in their platforms. Like roads have seemed to be a big thing, and it kind of just keeps not really happening. There's been some going on recently, and I hope that it changes. But it's a good point that you bring up is just even the materials that they use in these roads. They're ridiculous. They just break over and over and over. It's 2021. We can come up with roads that are not going to need to be refilled constantly. They have I really am a fan of this solar roadways technologies that's coming out from this civil engineering couple, and it's getting more and more. It seems to be being tested. Even if not them specifically, the concept of what they have about having this, the way that it is, it gets rid of all of that digging and replacement with the asphalts and stuff like that, because if something does break, you just take a piece out, and you put another piece in to connect it. But there's just so many different aspects to that I like, and I really hope that we can do something like that here, because here, and on the East Coast like that, we have awful winters. Awful. They're full of snow and ice, and there's it's the same old thing. You're out shoveling, or they're plowing, and salting, and over and over and over. There's so many accidents, and some of these technologies, as soon as it hits the road, it's melted. So there is no ice, there is no snow, there is no need for paying for the salt chemicals and paying to always have this done. And then basically what you can do with is almost another water source, because it goes underneath, and then it's basically channeled off to be used as more water. And there's just so many different things that we can do and develop, and especially if we really have a center where it is in conjunction with the government, the government of the city, and we're like, no, we want to work on all of that. Imagine that you could put those kind of roadways and driveways and sidewalks and things like that through the city, and people never have to worry about plowing again. They never have to worry about shoveling and hurting their backs and whatever, and all these accidents that come from that. So yeah. I'm really interested in that.
Yes, indeed. And also on the subject of autonomous vehicles, Daniel Twett pointed out that they would save 90% of traffic fatalities. Some estimates I've seen are even higher than that.
Yeah.
About 95% of all accidents are the result of human error. So
Sure.
It would be a great humanitarian initiative to implement autonomous vehicles as widely as possible. And there are already autonomous rideshare fleets. There are cities in Arizona, I believe, where they've been implemented. David has discussed that with John recently. So David, would you like to share some of what you know about the status of autonomous ride sharing in Arizona?
I would love that here.
Yeah, we have had autonomous vehicles here in Arizona being tested for quite some time. And one that I'm aware of has an active taxi service in and around Arizona State University, which is in Tempe, just south of Phoenix proper. Over in Nevada, southern Nevada, matter of fact, Gennady, you were there when we were together there at RadFest, I think in 2019, and we were looking for options to go visit something away from our hotel. And one of the options that was there in southern Nevada was actually rideshare from an autonomous vehicle. We had too many people to take that. We had enough seats in there, but there was an option for that. And I thought that was a really great thing. Now, one of the inequities that government can help with when it comes to autonomous vehicles is a double standard. We look at the amount of traffic fatalities that happen in human piloted vehicles every day, and that's horrible. And also here, one of the testing companies, I think it was Uber, if I remember right, they had a testing facility here, and they had an issue where there was a fatality, a human fatality involved, and the Arizona government expelled them from the state, expelled them from testing.
Oh.
Now, any fatality is horrible, of course, but when you look at the amount of miles that they had and that single fatality versus what we see every day that we have rather become numb to,
Yeah.
this is something where government needs to speak out more and point out those differences.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, many great things are going on here and in our neighboring state of Nevada, but we've got some work with public perception that I think that government can help us with.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's just so many ways where it's a good option. You know, even just you, you know, look at drunk driving. Just look at drunk driving. You know, if you don't have if you don't have to worry about doing the driving, you know, then you don't have to worry about the accidents. You don't have to worry about the fines. The training. You know, all this kind of stuff. Okay, you know, you drank, you jump in the car, and then the car takes you where to where you need to go. You know, there's so many so many benefits to it, and again, I think with the ride share part, and of course, you know, of course, if somebody wants to own their own car, nobody would prevent anybody from owning their own car. It would be fine. But if you have all these options, if you have really, really updated technologies for the public transportation, you know, and there's some amazing magnetic levitation, you know, wonderful technologies that could be put in, you know, and if those are comfortable and quick and get you to where you know you want to go, and then if you know you do have the car, you have this option of using it whenever you need, and it's brand, you know, a new car that's maintained all the time, and affordable, and you using it if you do need it. It really can alleviate a lot of pressure on people, of really trying to have that car payment, you know, and that car insurance and that car maintenance and stuff that can be expensive, that you don't have to personally be responsible for, you know, and that could save our people quite a bit of money, and there's a lot of people that can't afford a car, you know, and so if we expand these technologies and things like that, they would really be having access to either both amazing transportation, public transportation, in the, you know, that form, or you know, these nice cars, to use whenever they need.
Mm. Yes,
There's
indeed.
a lot to it. Yeah.
And Mike Lazine points out that it is warped human thinking that people would rather deal with human piloted vehicles that cause huge numbers of accidents and yet resist automated vehicles that are safer. Indeed, the situation with the Uber vehicle in Arizona was that the vehicle had automated braking enabled, but Uber decided to disable the automated emergency braking and instead have a human safety driver in the vehicle. And the human safety driver was essentially in dereliction of duty, because he was looking down at his phone. He wasn't really focused on the road. And this woman came out into the intersection. The vehicle struck her. Had the automated emergency braking been engaged, this has been studied extensively, the vehicle would have stopped and the woman would be alive today. So it was human error in multiple places that led to that fatality. It wasn't the autonomous system. Now, that's not to say no autonomous system can ever malfunction in such a way as to kill a human being. However, in that case, Uber was expelled because of human error. And it's unfortunate that the media sensationalize that kind of incident in a way that turns some sizable segments of the public against vehicular automation, when it is precisely such automation that can save lives precisely in those kinds of circumstances.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one good thing that is like maybe helping people get a little more wrapped around the idea of it too is actually even Uber, things like Uber and Lyft, because, obviously cabs, and things like that too. But, I know it's still a person driving, but you're sort of, you have the app and the car shows up and you kind of jump in it and go. And it's a little bit of the same, it would be a little bit of the same concept. It's just the car is driving instead of the person. So I think maybe that's helping get people even a little bit more comfortable, with those different concepts.
Mm-hmm. And we have another question from WaitWhat469 who asks, in terms of vehicle fleets, have you looked into the use of electric vehicles for garbage trucks? They seem to be an ideal case.
I haven't specifically looked into it, for garbage trucks, but electric are very interesting. They're also coming up with so many solar things too, that even solar paints and different things like that it is interesting to look into replacing the things that we have that are going to be operating for the government, like the garbage technology and stuff like that, because it really would want to be, again, it goes back to upgrading everything. So whatever's going to be the safest for people and the safest for the city and the safest for the planet, and most efficient and cost efficient is all the stuff that we're going to want to look into. And again, we might be able to develop things in regard to that, right out of our own Center for Scientific Solutions here.
Great. And Daniel Twett has stated that he would also like to interact with and advise your campaign, as John Carrots had said. So
I would love to, guys. Find me on Facebook. I'll bring all the help, please.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And could you suggest some ways in which our viewers can help your campaign, especially the ones who aren't in Camden and can't sign your petition? What else can they do?
Yeah, we do have a working group, an open working group on Facebook. We have some organizational platforms that we started to put together to work on, not just the campaign, but then the issues if we are fortunate enough, to obtain the position. So any kind of help that if anybody would like to join any of those and help really to develop more ideas. That's Trello. I don't know if everybody knows it, but it's a free organizational platform. On the issues, we have one for the campaign, one board for the campaign, one board for obtaining the position. So anyone that wants to help expand any of the ideas, it's basically a big brainstorming for what we have there. So any particular fields that you're interested in, if you're interested in the technologies, if you're interested in more of the social system advancement and anything like that, you can jump on and put any kind of ideas that we might be able to explore, or links or grants or this. Very interested in that. And then I guess really the rest is just sort of, spreading information on social media. Obviously, people have to be in the area to be able to vote or anything like that. Donations help. I'm trying not to focus on donations so much, like a lot of politicians. It seems like everything you see is about donating, but we are independent, so it's just me and my husband kind of going around and printing flyers out and printing door hangers and stuff. So we're looking to, try to cover the city with as much marketing materials as we can, because a lot of times, you can see when people are running for office, you walk on every corner and there's like 7 posters and the vote for this person, vote for this, all on every fence and stuff. And that really isn't the case here, because there usually isn't any competition. They do talk to newspapers, and they do have certain events and things like that, but so far we've had people help develop flyers and website and door hangers, and they're very nice. They came out great, and people are really surprised to see them walking around and handing them out, because they don't really get those. So we are trying to do as much of that as we can. If we can afford to do mailers, we would love to do mailers, if we could too, and we're looking to do some, maybe most of it is all going to go toward marketing. We're looking to do some signs like the realtors have, that go in front of the house. Well, politicians have them too, but they go in front of the house or go in front of the business, and different banners and stuff. So it's really just like cost of printing, the design and things like that has already been volunteered, which is really nice. So we don't have to actually pay for that. But printing costs, and then if there is anybody local or anything like that that would like to try to come out and help knock on doors or something like that, for because I'll be doing that even after the signature collecting, just to introduce myself, and pass out things, obviously for the general too, and we might look into if there, I know that there's people that they, politicians, they hire people to do the awareness around, for them. I just don't know anything about how that works actually, I guess, I was, but I'm hoping to see if maybe some people want to help reach out to like different political science departments and things like that, where they might have some students, maybe local, that want to help, with experience on the campaign, for doing that. Although, I do want to try to meet as many people personally as I can, but if they would like to go around and help set up any events, you don't even necessarily have to be completely local to do that, because you can look up places and call, and see if they are interested in having events. But that's really it. We're really just trying to like hit the marketing materials as much as we can, just because we do have that kind of like advantage of not having like 7 other posters smushed in everywhere. So just getting as much just help getting it out, the awareness out, as we can. Everything's appreciated, and really, I really like my even though it may not necessarily be in regard to the campaign specifically, but it's just anyone in the networks that is again interested in developing these issues and working on these issues. If people that really specialize in housing and stuff, I want to talk to all of them. It doesn't matter if I've been talking to the people that I've been talking to that are specialists in housing or specialists in whatever. I really want as much collaboration as possible, because everybody has something that they could help, and add to. And the more people that we have working on it, the faster we're going to be able to resolve these issues. And I want them resolved as fast as possible, especially anyone that, every day someone's on the street, they could die. Obviously we could all die again. I say like for something, but there's so much more risk of it. If you're on the street, if you don't have food, if you're free, maybe you have a house but you can't afford your heat. So you're putting candles or doing some kind of thing that can generate a fire, and then there's a fire there and it's affecting all the houses that are attached to you and stuff like, so any of these kind of things, the faster that we get them done, the more lives that we're going to be able to save. and the faster that we're going to be able to bring quality of life to everybody. And once we can bring quality of life to everybody and they're enjoying their lives, then they're more interested in living longer too. And you know, then we'll be able to work on that kind of stuff for everybody too.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. And Zach Richardson just sent you a $25 donation. So thank you.
That's gonna get us some flyers or signs. Thank you.
Yes, and Zach says, get those vertical farms going. We need more poor people eating vegetables. It will help them make better decisions in general and have a compounding effect. Daniel Twett also says that he intends to donate. He sees an amazing opportunity for Camden. And he also endorses the idea of vertical farming. I think it would be great for the US Transhumanist Party, as does Daniel. If you do win, it will highlight transhumanist ideas, beneficial applications of technology to a greater extent. So I think good things are in store for your campaign. Now I would like to ask if any of the US Transhumanist Party officers have any final questions or comments for Jennifer.
Just really quick, before they do, I just want to say something interesting that with the vertical farming really fast. It's just there's a high school a primary school in the Bronx, and I was speaking with the principal of that school, and while it's not a vertical farm like Arrow Farms, they grow food in the school, and they make 30,000 pounds of fresh organic food just out of the one school every year, and not even a year because they're not even there in the summer, really. And they teach the kids how to do the growing. So they're teaching the kids how to grow all this organic food. And then what they do is they make sure all of the kids have all the food that they need, and they can take it home. And so all of their kids are fed, because they have a basic premise of this school that unless their kids' needs are met, that they aren't going to be able to focus on school. You're not going to be able to focus on school, right, if you're hungry. You know what I mean? They actually provide the medical care for the kids and dental care for the kids on top of that. And then so what they do with the rest of the food after they give it to the kids in their households is then they distribute it to the cancer patients that live in the area for free. And so I think, you know, which obviously the vertical farm is going to produce more than 30,000 pounds, but they're willing to come help me get that into the schools here. They're already doing it. You know, and they have the funding and all the different things, and they're willing to come put that into the schools here. So even if we had the schools growing and the kids learning and that feeding the community, like for example, while the, you know, vertical farm is being built, you know, and then we have more of it, then there's some other, you know, things that we can do like that too, and they have it inside, so it's protected from the elements, you know, also, which is really important. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Excellent. So now let us go to Jason.
You're awesome. You're gonna make a great candidate.
Thank you.
I love how you really embrace the USTP platform. I love how you're problem solving minded and using thinking about technology and how that can solve the problems. I got a couple suggestions. To appeal to conservative voters, the USTP platform does have a few things, I think, maybe from its libertarian influences, like our penchant for personal freedom and for eliminating certain regulations, like in the USDA and FDA or whatever. Also, I was thinking we could maybe use this as an opportunity to develop our USTP state party for New Jersey, and maybe combine that with your campaign working group and help to get something local going there. Mike DeVerde brought to my attention the Sunrise organization and how they're really successful. And I looked into it, and how they're successful is by setting up local groups. So I was thinking we could maybe emulate that and use this as an opportunity to develop our state party over there in New Jersey.
Yeah, and actually Alexandria had brought up some stuff to me, because here in Camden, one good thing that we have already is we have a lot of STEM schools and LEAP. And we also have just built a huge science and technology high school over in Parkside. I mean, it is giant. It's amazing. And there might even be some of the schools that would be interested in having transhumanist clubs, for the kids that are interested in the different sciences and technologies too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, and hopefully this can be the start of collaborations, both among existing transhumanists in New Jersey, as well as new people who might be intrigued by the US Transhumanist Party as a result of your run. So now let us see if any of the other panelists have any final questions or final remarks. Brent.
Yeah, I was just wondering which school in the Bronx. My mom and my sister both taught in the Bronx for a while, so I was just kind of wondering.
Did you really? Okay, hold on.
I didn't. But my parents, yeah, my mom and my sister.
I just want to double check so I don't say the wrong thing, but I think it's PS 55. Hold on, let me do this really, really, really quickly. They just posted about them.
Yeah, I want to say my mom used to taught at like PS 152 or something for like a few
decades. It's PS 55. And their principal is Luis Torres. He works also with they're doing a lot. Maitreya did an interview with him for Super Longevity Institute, and he really, to hear a principal speak that way, about the kids and about meeting their basic needs, and they've been bringing in robotics for the kids. I mean, their curriculum is probably the most progressive curriculum that I really have seen. Let me just pull it up 1 second. That's awesome. I'm pretty sure
it looks like it's PS 55. I'm seeing Luis Torres.
And is it? Yeah, that's it then.
Great science and urban agricultural program. The Green Bronx, they're saying. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And he was wonderful. I had a fantastic conversation with him. He did some research on Camden. He actually said that Camden really reminded him a lot of South Bronx. And so he was really, because just the food desert situation and things like that we have here, and we do have some organizations that are trying to get fresh food around to everybody here, like Virtua and different stuff, and Lutheran ministries and people, but it really needs to be expanded. It really, it's not that we don't have people here that are trying to help on different things. It's just that we really need to expand everybody that's working on it and bring more people into it. But yeah, PS5, yeah. Amazing. If you get a chance to listen to the interview, it's very inspiring. It was like, this needs to be in all the schools.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Is there a link or something to the working group you have started? Do you have like a Facebook group or
So it's a chat. It's really just a chat where we're in there. So there isn't really a link, but if you send me a message on Facebook, I can add you into the chat. I didn't make it into its own, group per se or anything like that. Yeah, it's sort of just like a chat, and then we have little, like little ones, like we have like a separate design group and a separate, editing group. Like it's really just in chats. And what we do have, I do have the Trello boards links. hold on one second, which we can use all kind of help developing those out. Anyone that really likes organization, come on over.
Well, I was thinking maybe if Gennady was to make the group, then he could be in charge, and then it would be inherently in the circle, you know. So
yeah, any way you guys want to expand, I'm not opposed to a group either. It was just, that's kind of just where, you know, how it developed. I was just sort of throwing people in. But let me just give him the let me just give Gennady the Trello platform board. Hold on one second. I may have already done that, but one sec. I'll just pass it to you on Facebook.
Yes, and I would suggest if anybody is interested in collaborating in that way, find Jennifer on Facebook and reach out to her, because that way you can become a part of her network and be apprised of these kinds of discussions. Alan Crowley also donated from Texas, and
thank you.
He wants to know
it will
how
go
to
a
help.
long way, because you know, I have a campaign manager that's been helping me. She's the national campaign manager, but she's been helping me with it, and she's like, wow, you know, you're really kind of like running a zero budget campaign almost. You're just, you and her husband are just working, and then just, you know, trying to get some stuff printed when you can. But you know, so it really will make a big difference, because it's going to help with the marketing materials, you know, and things like that. So I really appreciate it.
Excellent. And he also says that Trello is a nice tool for decentralized work.
Yeah.
So it looks like you have a good approach here. And Daniel Twett suggests creating a Discord channel in the USTP Discord server for her campaign. There are several administrators.
Discord there, yes. So we could, yeah.
Yes. So the USTP does have a Discord community. I will say this to any of the administrators of the USTP Discord server who are listening, please feel free to create.
I can make
thread.
channels.
Okay.
I just can't set permissions in there, but I can make a channel and stuff for it, or a whole section, you know, for it.
I guess does the person that I've never created a channel on Discord. I've just kind of popped on there for, you know, different things that I was working with before. But does the person that creates the channel have the ability to make the permissions?
I would have the ability to make the permissions.
Yeah,
okay.
Elton could. He's
okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, I sent you the board, the Trello board, and they're you know, fairly new. So it's and again, it's really just like a brainstorming. We're just throwing stuff on there for ideas. So, you know, it can there's tons of improvement for, you know, for organizing there and expanding there. But I just wanted to have some kind of open working board that people could start to come on, you know, that was and that way, you know, anyone that wants to look at it anywhere, you know, can look at it. So I sent those to you on Facebook. The one for, I have one, I had started making, I only had one board, and my campaign manager was like, Jen, you have to make one for the campaign. All your stuff is issue development. You know, and I was like, oh yeah. So, so I split it into two boards there. You know.
So are the Trello board links public?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I will endeavor to share them as soon as I am able.
You may have to send an, I'm not sure, sometimes it seems like sometimes it requires someone to send an email, like or to get on, but then I'll just accept it if it does that. It doesn't seem to do it in every case, and I don't know why it does it sometimes, because it is public. Yeah.
All right. So in the meantime, while I look into this, do any of the other panelists have concluding questions or comments? Let's see. I think we have gone for Now, 3 hours and 50 minutes we were discussing prior to the start of this event whether this would be one of the 4-hour virtual enlightenment salons that we occasionally have. It looks like—
I didn't think it at all. I didn't think everybody would have that much interest in little old me. Look at that.
See, I told you you was awesome.
Thanks.
I can attest.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. You guys are all awesome too. I really, I mean, I had so much respect for this party and just really what they stand for. And it's nice too, you know, because even when I'm out and I'm talking about things, if people look me up and they, you know, they do see the interviews I posted and the things that I posted. And at first they might be, you know, because of the name, they're like, you know, transhumanist, but then once they really start to see that it's about bringing everyone, you know, the best quality of life and transcending these things that are in our way and are hurting us, you know, then there really has been a really good response, which is nice.
Yes, indeed. Now, it does seem like the Trello boards require permission to join. So what I will do instead is I will share your Facebook campaign page, and people can find your campaign there and connect with it, and then message you using the campaign page, and presumably you'll be able to send the Trello invitations to them from there. And in the meantime, we will set up a Discord channel for your campaign on the USTP Discord server, and that will enable more of our members to be brought in. So thank you very much, Jennifer, for joining us today and engaging with our members to the immense extent that you have. I think we've gone through essentially all of the questions that we've had time for. Thank you to Immortalist Magazine, as always, for their support and great comments in the chat. Immortalist Magazine states that this is another greatly valuable, enlightening conversation, just like all of the USTP's virtual enlightenment salons. Looking forward to more of these talks. And likewise, Jennifer, any last words before we conclude?
Also, just too, another way to reach me, just in case people aren't on Facebook or don't use it that much too, I do have on my website, I have a phone number and email, and those are sent it to by me. I have, you know, the campaign page on Facebook, and I have Instagram and Twitter, although I'm not on Instagram and Twitter as much as I am on Facebook. And sometimes on Facebook, some people that are helping me do answer the messages on the Facebook, but then even if they answer, I'll still come back and answer after. But if you want to really even get me more directly, the phone number that I have there, you can reach me with it. Obviously, I may not answer every call immediately if I'm in something, but then I do get back, so you can text or call me on there, or shoot an email to me also.
Yes, I shared the contact page from your website, and that has all of the information that you mentioned. So hopefully that will give our viewers enough options for how to follow up with you and with your campaign. Well, thank you everybody for attending this virtual enlightenment salon, and consider how many other candidates would be willing to be this transparent to the public about their campaign, their priorities, answering all of the questions in as genuine and sincere a way as Jennifer has. So this is quite promising, and we're looking forward to future developments in your campaign. Now your big task is to get those petition signatures, get them submitted, and then you move on to the next step. You'll have a few months where you will get to spread your message prior to the general election. So thank you very much for joining us, Jennifer. Thank you to our audience for being so engaged, for asking great questions. And this is what we strive to do in our virtual enlightenment salons, build bridges among all of these areas of our lives, of human endeavor, of society, of politics, and see if we can do our part in improving the human condition. So in that spirit, I hope that you all live long and prosper.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for having me.
See ya.